At Capella University, you're in control of your education. With the game-changing FlexPath format, you can set your own deadlines and move at your own pace. The faster you move, the more you save. Visit capella.edu to learn more.
Will not be happy with us. There we go. All right, continuing on. Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got aliens. Rich Hilke, good to see you. And the stunning and talented Melissa Nicole, there she is. And Magnus, what's happening? And who else do we have here? We're running out of time here. We only got like 5 seconds. The gorgeous Oracles and Beyond. Mickle and a Pickle Toes. Sonny, what's happening? Jeff, Steve Garvey, Ed Clater. Good to have you guys here. Richard Kern, welcome to SOR Chat for the first time. How are you? Thank you. I hope you enjoy the show and hit subscribe. Jose, what's happening, buddy? Nice to have you here. Hi, Lean. Nice to have you. Kawhi, what's happening? Digger Dog, it's nice to see you. I got to shut this off right here on the roll call because we got to play some radio. Steve Stockton's here, everyone. Get your horns up. Let's rock. The mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Our good friend Steve Stockton is back. He is part of KPNL, where we broadcast from, but he's highly successful on his YouTube channel, Missing Person Mysteries, as well as 13 Past Midnight. Steve is an investigator, a researcher, a successful author on everything unknown, from cryptids like Bigfoot to missing people who just vanish into thin air. Tonight, as we lead closer to Halloween, Steve is going to bring us some spooky stories that continue to haunt us through the month of October. Mr. Steve Stockton, how you doing, brother?
Doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me back. Just a month ago or so I was here, son. Like that. I like coming back and love your audience. Love what you're doing here. Your show just gets better and better, my friend.
Oh, you are way too kind. Way too kind. You know, I'll pay you off in beers when I'm down in Oregon. How about that?
Hey, that works for me.
Steve, you're a guy who's been doing this for a while. You've had a lot of fun over the years putting these weird stories together. Everything from sightings of Sasquatch, UFOs, paranormal, to the fact that people just seem to vanish and are gone for the rest of time. You know, how did you get interested in all of this?
Well, I had some paranormal experiences when I was young, probably around 3-4 years old, minor stuff. And then when I was almost 6, I saw a full-body apparition. And it didn't scare me. It just kind of made me inquisitive about it. It piqued my interest, so to speak, and just kind of took off from there. I've been on a lifelong quest now. 52 years, Halloween. I'll be 58 on Halloween, so I started doing it when I was 6, looking into things. And, the more I look into it, the more I found that there aren't any answers, only more and more questions. So now it's not a quest for answers, but a quest for the next set of questions, and I like it that way. According to Charles Fort, one measures a circle beginning anywhere. So, and that's true in the paranormal. You can jump in anywhere and take off on any tangent you want. There's all kinds of strangeness out there, some of it that hadn't even been touched yet.
What makes trying to chase down these mysteries so fun, because for the majority of people out there, it didn't matter whether we grew up with Scooby-Doo, Inspector Gadget, or even today's cartoonish crime fighters, we always seem to have a passion for mysteries and having our brains tricked to think that we could solve. I mean, you look at some of those most popular reality games today are virtual reality and real reality mystery rooms on escape rooms. Like we're always trying to solve these mysteries and everything and puzzles. Was that part of it too? Is the puzzle of putting the pieces together?
I think that's it. It is like working a big jigsaw puzzle, but then you find out, and I think Soraya asked Catherine this analogy, it's like 5 puzzles dumped together in the same box. And so you don't have any idea what puzzle you're even trying to put together, and there's way too many pieces for it all to fit. But that's the fun of it, it's just talking to people, experiencers, going to places where things have happened. And to me, I like to go to places where it's just been a one-off, something like the Dover Demon or something where it just happened to maybe 1 or 2 people. Because the places where you have a lot of activity, people will go there expecting something to happen, and they usually get disappointed. I like going to some place that I pretty much know nothing's going to happen, but I like to be where it happened and just kind of soak in that ambiance.
For you, chasing down these strange creatures and these weird anomalies, in your investigations, have you ever encountered these critters, these creatures, or these supernatural type beings?
Yeah, it just depends on which ones you're talking about. I've never had a sighting of a Bigfoot or a Dogman, but I've heard Bigfoot. I've heard the yelps and the yowls. I've seen footprints. I got pelted with stones once in Jefferson National Forest when I got too close to something after I'd been hearing yips and yowls and tree knocks. And I don't know if it was the Bigfoot warning me away from something or just wanting me out of their area. Because I think sometimes they can be benevolent creatures and they'll be like, hey, you need to get out of there. We're not going to hurt you, but there's something in there that can. Maybe a bear, big cat, rattlesnake, who knows?
And I can see that, I mean, I go chasing the forest for Bigfoot here. I'm petrified to think that there may be Dogman in our area, even though deep down I think I know, as well as the fabled little people running around causing a little havoc in the forest, potentially with some hunters and everything. And, I like to tell a story of, a couple years ago, my buddy Mike was out hunting in one of our local forests, and he went into this gravel pit area that kind of blends into the forest. And as he's traipsing around looking for footprints of both grouse and rabbits, he starts hearing my voice saying, Mike, come in here, help me, Mike, help me. And he said the sound was emanating all around him. It wasn't coming from just one direction. Have you ever had anything like that or had stories about that?
I've heard voices out there that didn't make any sense. And I've heard stories of people that, particularly some of the missing person cases I covered, the people that were found that did make it out, they would hear voices of loved ones calling to them when they know that the person whose voice it was sometimes thousands of miles away. I've heard other stories, particularly down south in the Appalachians, about people hear somebody calling to them from a cave, not necessarily a voice that they recognize, but calling their name and trying to lure them into a cave. That'd be a big nope for me. If something is calling to me in a cave.
It's real simple. Real simple. If it's in a cave, don't go.
Yep.
You don't go. Or if you see like a vortex or something open up, Steve, you don't go in that. Or stairways in the middle of the forest, you don't climb them. There's just certain rules you have.
If I had my dog with me, I would like to step through a portal just to see what's on the other side. But I've always thought it'd probably be like the original Land of the Lost Saturday morning TV series. I'd probably be in some place and I'd have to fight dinosaurs and sleestaks or something. But I would love to know what's on the other side of those portals.
What do you think is up with this whole stairway thing? And for people who don't recognize it, there's a bunch of people out there, and if you haven't heard the show before, there's a bunch of people who claim, and nobody ever knows who these people are. We just hear about these people who claim that they'll be walking through the forest, deep in the forest, miles away from civilization, and all of a sudden they'll see a metal or a stone-built stairway going up and ending. And apparently, this stairway, if you get to the top, something happens. You're not supposed to reach the top stair. Steve, tell us some stories about that.
I've heard those stories, and there's two schools of thought on that. There's people that claim that that's just made up, that it was a creepypasta, but that people believe in. But then I've talked to people that have seen those. I knew a guy that was in the military, and his staff sergeant told his troop, if you ever come across stairs in the woods, don't climb them. So that kind of lends some credence to it. And as far as the debunkers, well, consider UFOs, and you have eyewitnesses, experiences, and things, but yet you have people that'll come around to UFO groups and conferences and conventions, even online, and say, no, that didn't happen. That didn't exist. So I believe that might be part of maybe some government's attempt to make people think things aren't real, is they plant people to tell you that it's not real. I know that's happened in the UFO community, particularly back in the late 50s and early 60s when the first community started first coming together. You had people that were just there to sow discord and cause problems. And to this day, that continues. The UFO community is one of the most toxic communities there is at sometimes. Not everybody involved in it, but there's a lot of infighting. You know what I'm talking about. There's if everybody could get along and have a common goal and focus on that, so much more information will be available, I think.
That's funny you mentioned that, because that leads into my Dave 101 for tonight that I'll be doing is, does the UFO community really want disclosure? Because all of a sudden, if this really takes off the way people are hoping to, they got their fingers crossed, they're praying for it, that disclosure happens and we get aliens or whatever it may be, there's going to be a lot of people, Steve, out of work.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of conferences that die. There's going to be a lot of just a lot of everything that just goes away. And, this might be one of those situations, Steve, in the UFO community especially, where you better be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, indeed. And it would put it, if we had all the answers, then it would put a lot of writers and a lot of speakers and that sort of thing, movie makers out of work. They'd have to go on and find something else to do. So, yeah, like you said, be careful what you wish for. I think some things are better left a mystery. It's more fun that way, more enjoyable. You have a lot of room to pontificate and speculate, and nobody really knows. So there are no hard and fast answers. And to me, that's part of the thrill. Just the thought that there might be.
Oh, I fully agree with you that there might be, and for some of us that there are. We know the phenomena is happening. We know that the government knows way more about this. Outside of UFOs, there's also a big conspiracy that the government knows about Bigfoot. They know about Dogman. They know about the Montauk Monster and all of these critters and creatures that are roaming the lakes and the forest trails of North America and even the sky for some of them. How many of those creatures do you really think the government is following in their spooky desks?
I think they keep track of it if they're not responsible for some of them, like Montauk and some of that was supposedly government interference there. The Glimmer Man or the Predator being that people see, I think that's some sort of government related. I don't know if it's our government, another government, some sort of shadow government type thing or alien technology. But I think they're aware of it and they keep tabs on it. I think we do have at the government level something like the X-Files, something group that goes out and looks into these cases and or at least keep tabs on. I mean, there's stories about one of the most recent ones I've heard is the whole reason that the U.S. National Parks Service was created was to keep an area that's separated off to keep people from living in there where these creatures have a home where they can go. And likewise, if the creatures are in there, then they're less likely to be feasting on humans. Like there's tales in the Smokies of some sort of either feral cannibal people or some type of Bigfoot that takes people and eats them. And that's in reference to the Dennis Martin case. There's a guy on YouTube called South Force 10 that claims his relatives were hired by the government to go in and hunt these creatures back in the 20s and 30s before the national parks came into existence. So who knows? I mean, I think it would really, really blow our minds if we knew just what was out there that's hidden and kept away from us to keep us safe or to keep the paradigm from shifting too much. I mean, I think also if there was full disclosure, found out about aliens and UFOs and things like that, how that would upset the religious community, because a lot of religions, it doesn't fit in with their worldview and their culture. So there you go. I mean, you could throw easily a third of the world into an uproar.
Oh, very true. More than a third, to be honest. I think more like half. I think that would be the real number on that one. But out of all these creatures that are said to be roaming around North America, are there any that you just have a tough time struggling to wrap your hands around and say, this one, there's no way this could be real?
Well, I try to keep an open mind because just some of the things I've seen are so unbelievable. But I heard recently over in Vancouver, Washington, just across the river here from where I live, a lady saw a praying mantis that was like 8-10 feet tall. She was outside smoking a cigarette. There was a street light on the opposite corner. Something was moving in the light. She looks over. There's a praying mantis in the edge of her yard that's tall enough that it's moving, blocking out the street light. You know, that sounds hard to believe, but who knows? Also, on Roan Mountain in extreme northeast Tennessee, I've got a friend that swears up and down he can take me to a cave where there's spiders as big as house cats. Now, I don't know that I particularly want to see that.
No.
I mean, the body of the spider is as big as a cat. He said with legs and everything, it's, they're about 3-4 feet across. Nah, I'll take his word for it, but he swears that there's at least one in this cave.
Yeah, I'm not going in there. I'll take his word for it. I mean, I can handle the little spiders, man. But anything like getting like that tarantula size or bigger, I'm out.
Anything that can kill a bird or a small animal, no, I don't. No. I coexist with spiders. I've got cobwebs up in my studio here. They catch mosquitoes and flies and things like that. Mm-hmm. But anything venomous, it's got to go immediately. And the other rule, no matter what kind of spider you are, you don't get in my bed or on me. If you're either of those places, you best case scenario get escorted out the door. Worst case, barrel at sea in the bathroom. So in other words, you make the spiders sign a contract before entering your house. They have rules here. They have rules. To follow house rules if you want to stay.
Do you have a favorite subject that you'd like to cover?
Oh gosh,
I know you're a fan of all of it. So,
yeah, it's hard to pick a certain thing. I find at different times of the year I get into different things, but like lately, just because of Missing Persons and Mysteries channel, that's at the forefront. And there's so many strange disappearances out there. It's one of those, once you start delving into it, that's a deep, deep rabbit hole. And there's so many different explanations that could all be correct. I don't think it's just any one thing that's taking people. I think it's a number of things. I think there's serial killers and some human predation like that. I think a Bigfoot type creature may be responsible, or Dogman, some sort of cryptid like that. I think there are portals. You had Gemma Jade on the other night. I love her faith theory about people going missing because of that happenings in that realm. And if you kind of look into it and go as deep as she does, Bigfoot, UFOs, all that kind of falls under the framework of the Fae. There's stories going back to like the 1700s of hairy giants accosting people, of little men in horseless buggies flying out of the sky. That's Bigfoot and UFOs, but it's a part of the fairy in the Fae canon. So, yeah, but it just kind of fits it together with a little bow there. But who knows? I mean,
what do you think the possibility is, Steve, that a lot of this is imagination and really, really cool tall tales comparatively to people who are committing heinous crimes, which we do know and have proven to know that these crimes exist?
Yeah, well, that's one thing to factor in. And even with just plain paranormal stories, there are stories that can and have been debunked. I've got one in my first book called The Light in the Coffin. It's happened back in like the 1920s. The guy was what they called courting back then. He had gone to church with his girlfriend and then went over to her house to sit on the porch afterwards. Well, it gets late. He has to leave, and he thinks, well, I've got to be up early. Farm chores start before daylight. So if I cut through the woods, I can save some time instead of walking 2 or 3 miles down the road. So he cuts through the woods. He sees off in some weeds and some briars what looks like a coffin with a flashing light in it. Now, he sees that as a not good omen at all. In fact, very, very bad. Takes off running through the briars and the woods and stuff, loses a shoe, tears his church clothes, everything, gets home. He's just a mess. Tells his mom, I saw a coffin in the woods with a light in it. His mom, being very superstitious, she about has a breakdown. She's crying and wailing and sure that he or somebody's going to pass away. Well, finally, the dad, who was the one with some reason there, said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to take you. We're going to go back out in the woods. We're going to find this coffin. So even though he resisted, he finally relented, went with his dad. They go out in the woods, and sure enough, they see something over there, the light flashing. And he's like, he won't go in there. But it's like, right over there, Dad, go take a look. So the man wades over there, kind of gets quiet for a minute, and then he bursts out laughing. And he's like, son, I want you to come here. So the kid, again, reluctantly goes over there and he looks. It's a felled tree, a rotted tree that's fallen down. And in some of the part that's rotted out, there's a spider web. And in the spider web, there's a firefly or a lightning bug. So it wasn't a coffin. It wasn't the light in the coffin. It was a bug caught in the spider web. But the guy said, if my dad hadn't taken me back out there and shown me what it was, he said, I was convinced I saw a coffin with a light in it. He said, that is exactly how it looked in my mind and, to my eyes. And he said, I probably would have died of fear that night just from thinking that I was going to die because I'd seen this horrible omen or portent or whatever. Now, that's in the South. They're big on their superstitions, their warnings and omens and things like that. You have to know how to interpret them. Well, but that's one example of something that somebody could really be just frightened out of their mind, but then it turns out to be something just very, very natural.
With superstitions, we got about 2 minutes left. How much does this come into play with these creatures and missing people?
As far
If you want to take your vehicle's performance to new heights, you got to give it Peak. Like our original equipment technology, antifreeze, and coolant, our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle. That's one reason why Peak is among the fastest growing brands of coolant in America. We work harder to earn the trust of people like you every day. That's Peak Performance.
At Capella University, education is as smart as the world around us. With the FlexPath format, you can take classes at your own pace, set your own deadlines, and even leverage your previous experience to move faster. Now that's smart. Learn more at capella.edu.
Superstition, again, it's that kind of ties into the Fae. There's certain things you don't do, or it can just be any missing persons. You don't pick berries, you don't go into boulder fields, you don't wear red. Certain things like that people that have gone inexplicably missing were doing one or more of those things. But that also involves the Fae. The Fae hate the color red. The boulder fields is theirs. The berries are theirs. Not only do they eat those, but inside those berry bushes is where they do their mating and things. So, but you hear about a lot of people that have had strange experience while picking berries or gone missing while picking berries. A lot of people that go missing are found later in a boulder field that's already been searched. So there's another kind of Fae incursion in there. But again, is it superstition? Is it real? Who's to say?
Definitely, and that is something that we need to try and figure out as we move on here, because tonight we're going to get into a number of interesting stories from your channel, Missing Person Mysteries, and other creatures of the night that seem to roam around and want to mess with us innocent humans who don't know any better. But, I mean, my friend, when it comes to these... How do you do it? How do you prove? Give me the minute-long speech on how you prove that a story is real and not just bunk.
Well, again, that would depend on the story and the witness. A lot of times you can tell just by talking to somebody, listen to them repeat it and tell it to other people, see if any of it changes, or if they're people that tend to exaggerate will tell it bigger each time. That's like fishermen and people like that. A fish this big becomes this big and then that big by the third time they've told the story. And a lot of time it's the reticence of the person to actually tell the story. Somebody that's trying to put one over on you, they want you to hear their story. But particularly in my first book, a lot of those people didn't even want to talk about it just for fear that it would happen again or come back. That, to me, is a good way to vet it. But it's impossible to totally vet every story. I tell it for the value of the story. You take it as it is, and if you want to investigate, that's up to you, although a lot of these were one-time things that never happened again.
Steve, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Steve Stockton, Missing Persons Mysteries. If you haven't signed up for his YouTube channel, get there. Incredible stories of missing people and the strange cases that go around them. And if you want to hear some great ghost stories, he's got another channel, 13 Past Midnight. Hit subscribe on both. Steve Stockton here. Creepy stories of creatures of the night coming up next on the mighty SOR. Stay tuned. All right, buddy, we're clear. That's good stuff.
All right, had my mic muted just in case there. Yeah, good start.
I got to figure out why you're coming in really hot on my end.
I need to back off a little bit. I can turn my gain down some.
Yeah, turn your gain down a little bit because I got you even on here. And by the way, SOR crowd, if you could all do me a favor and give a few claps to Ben from UFO Garage. Him and his beautiful wife just welcomed their first child, a beautiful baby girl, into the world just a few days ago, and they are settling in very nicely, and everybody is happy, everybody is healthy, and now they got to figure out how to learn how to sleep again, because the good old days are over, Ben. The good old days are over, but congratulations and much love to you and your family, Ben from UFO Garage. You are a rock star to us, my friend. You are family, and we're so proud of you and your wife welcoming in the little newborn into your world, and God bless you for it, man. So thank you so much for everything, and we love you, and I'm going to keep running in circles because I'm such a wimp for babies, man. Such a wimp for babies. Love children. And so anyways, thank you for that. And if everybody could just send some love Ben's way, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So that's for Super Ben right there. Mm-hmm. Mennonite Abe's got it right. Hello, baby. Goodbye, sleep. Oh, yeah. Sonny from Chop Shop, what's happening?
Got some of my people here tonight. Divine Diamond, she's a fellow Canadian with you there. Oracles and Beyond, Cassie, how you doing? Jeanette Sanchez, my little brown elf, how are you? Saw some more of my folks in here. If I don't get to you, I apologize. Carol XO.
Making me happy.
Jose's here. Callie Snyder, all the way from Hawaii.
Nice.
Oh, and Celine's there. She's running the stream tonight while I'm on here.
Now,
sometimes
is she?
I do both, but
I know usually it's you at night.
Yeah, she's running it tonight. My Mac that I usually run it on is down, so I can only do one thing at a time now. So I'm on here and she's running the stream. So thanks, Ann.
Yes, and Celine, everybody. And Celine. I love her. And you know what, Steve, I'm going to call you during the day tomorrow, so that way we can make some plans to do a KPNL event down in Oregon. I mean, now that we know that the border is going to be opening up here, I believe November 9th, they're going to open up the border between Canada and the U.S. I really want to get down there and support KPNL and support Ann and you, and I think it would be, I think we could put together a very fun evening for a lot of people in that area who want to hear some spooky tales and some weird stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we're looking around to see if there's a nightclub or a small theater that we can four-wall, and then that way just have a you and a stage and see whatever happens, cash bar.
Right. Hey, we got a lot of new people in here who are first timers that I don't recognize. I just want to let you guys know that we are not a podcast. We are a live radio show, and we have to time everything out with our terrestrial affiliates. And so during the breaks, when we actually go to commercial break, you get to have the behind the scenes footage of everything that we're talking about and yapping about off air, so to speak. And so that's the reason why this sounds a little bit different. If you're wondering what's going on. If you are new and you like what we do, like Steve does, and Steve loves coming on here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and we are here literally 7 days a week. I'm here Monday through Friday. Lynn Wallington is here Saturday and Sunday nights, and we may have some news next week of a big announcement, which will also be really good for all of you, too. And we may be expanding some programming here very soon. Very, very soon. And growth is always a good thing. Whether it's a radio show, whether it's a beard, okay, it's always a good thing. All right, we are 30 seconds away. A good way to support our show is through the Super Chat. I want to say a big thank you so far to Mark, to the Dutch Princess Sally, Smithy, and Simon in Australia for the amazing Super Chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this nightly basis. All right, hi, beautiful Lynn Soes. How you doing? Good to see you. And Blue Book, nice to have you back. Here we go, everyone. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and check out our swag as well. We got some good gear. And of course, follow us on social media. Twitter @SpacedOutRadio, Instagram @Spaced Out Radio Show. Spooky Stories Night here with Steve Stockton, warming you up for Halloween because, you know, this is the month where almost everybody decides that they are paranormal fanatics. It only happens once a year, and that's the month of October. Steve Stockton has 2 incredible YouTube channels that we really highly suggest that you go and hit that subscribe button because the content is incredible. He has 13 Past Midnight, which is spooky ghost stories, literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and his big channel, Missing Persons Mysteries, which gets into the weird and strange. Steve, welcome back.
Oh, thanks again, Dave.
All right. Do you want to start off with some missing people?
Sure. That's the case that really got me interested in missing persons, the Dennis Martin case. Happened Father's Day, 1969. I was just a little bit younger than Dennis. He was 6 going on 7. I was 5 going on 6. And it was just the first time in my childlike mind that I got an idea that bad things can happen to children. Children can disappear and never be seen again. Happened not far from where I live. As in the Smoky Mountains. They had been to the Cades Cove area and had hiked up to Spence Field. Met another family up there, also named the Martins. They had some kids. So Dennis and his brother and the other people's children, they're playing together, doing kind of a hide and seek or slip up on the adults and scare them kind of thing. Dennis's father said he watched Dennis go behind a bush. Now, he was wearing red, another synchronicity there. And the other kids had him go hide separately because they was afraid he'd be spotted easier. His father saw him go behind a clump of bushes, and that was the last time he ever saw him. When the other kids came out, jumped out, scared the adults, he's like, "Oh, where's Dennis?" And they're like, "We haven't seen him since we hid." He went straight to the clump of bushes, went in it, walked all around it, no Dennis. He sent his father, the father's father, Dennis's grandfather was with him. He sent him down to the ranger station, and Dennis's dad took off in a run down the Appalachian Trail, which goes through the edge of Spencefield. Went for a couple of miles to see if he could see Dennis. No sign of him anywhere. And then in another part of the park, just a little bit past that, a family called the Key family was looking for bear. And they thought they had spotted a bear. Now, this was right after they'd heard a weird scream, unlike any they'd ever heard. Well, the kids said, "Dad, there goes a bear." And the dad looks like, "No, that's not a bear. I think that's like he said it was looked like a man wearing fur or animal furs or something, climbing up a hillside with something red over his shoulder." So some people think that was a Sasquatch or one of the feral cannibal hillbillies that they talk about that live in the park that took Dennis. But nobody will ever know for sure. The only thing, they might have found a footprint, and they weren't even sure that was his because some of the Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts that were in there helping search was wearing the same kind of Oxford shoe that Dennis was wearing. And so he's been missing a little over 50 years now.
Wow. I don't think he's with us. I don't mean to sound rude, but after 50 years, I don't think he's with us.
His dad never came up hope. He died a few years ago on Halloween, about 5 years ago, I think. And in June, every year around the time of the disappearance, around Father's Day, the local news down there would bring out the Dennis story and talk about it. And one of the last interviews I ever saw with his dad is just so touching and poignant. He said, I've always hoped that one day there'd be a knock at the door. I'd go, there'd be a nice-looking man standing there, and it's like, "Can I help you?" And he'd be, "Dad, it's me. It's Dennis. I've come home." And unfortunately, that never happened. I mean, any time that a parent even has to bury a child, that's bad enough. But can you imagine one that go missing and you have no closure ever, never knowing what happened to them? That would be just a living hell.
I do have to ask you, because you've already mentioned it twice, about these cannibalistic hillbillies.
Mm-hmm.
What is this all about?
Well, again, it's conjecture. There's some people tells you it's just made up. There's other people that claims they know all about them. Dwight McCarter, he's a retired ranger from the Smokies. In fact, he was the lead tracker on the Dennis Martin case back in 1969. He wrote a book called Lost, and he's mentioned that he doesn't really go as far as to call them feral or Bigfoots, but he said there are some people that live out in the woods that are very, very off-grid. Some of them have never been out of the woods, were born there, live there, and will die there. And they don't like other people except maybe for a meal. Now, he didn't add that part, but that's the conjecture. And so there's a guy on YouTube, South Force 10, that talks. He's got several videos about the Dennis Martin case, and he claims Dennis Martin was eaten by these people or creatures, whatever they are. And just a lot of strange things surrounding that case. The FBI field agent from Knoxville, who was in charge of that case, took his own life in a very spectacular way. Maybe it had something to do with the investigation. Who knows? But that's part of the claim, is he knew stuff that just bothered him that bad about that case. So who knows? I'd stay out of the Smokies, though, if you're going to be out. If you go out, don't get off the trail. Don't wander off somewhere where you're not supposed to be and get in the bushes, because it's the most visited national park in the United States. Over 12 million people last year, even with things shut down. But there's some strange missing cases there. Trini Gibson's another one, a high school student that went missing in the 70s. It's from the same neighborhood as Dennis Martin. Another strange coincidence there. And then you had Thelma Pauline Martin that went missing in the 80s. Was hiking with some friends in the Dudley Creek area. She walked ahead, went around the corner, and they never saw her again. Now, different theories on both those. Some people claim Trini was abducted. Some people claim that she ran off with an older boyfriend, that she had very strict parents. I actually talked to her sister before she passed away, and she said, part of me wants to believe that Trini did escape with a older boy, and they're somewhere in Southern California, with a new name and living a good life. She said, but deep in my hardest of hearts, I don't think Trini ever left the mountains alive. So it destroyed that whole family. The parents got divorced. The sister that I knew, she was best friends with my niece. She turned to alcohol, substance abuse, and things like that. Died early, very tragic death from alcoholism. So just destroyed that family. And then Thelma Pauline Martin, my hiking and skiing club, actually helped search for her. I believe that was in '81. And again, she was married to a much older man. He was starting to have health problems. And there's people that think that she just, wasn't looking forward to a future of having to take care of somebody that was bedridden and just pulled a runner. But again, that's all conjecture. The only thing that's known for sure is that they disappeared and haven't been found.
How many of these people who go missing do you think actually are just runaways that just want to get out of the world, get out of their situation, and just disappear and start anew? Now, it's harder today because everything is computer tracked, camera tracked, whether it's bank accounts, whether it's, you can't get a fake ID anymore or anything like that. But, back then in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even into the early to mid 90s, it was easy to make yourself disappear if you wanted to start anew.
Oh, very possible. I remember in the late 70s when I got my driver's license, it was typed on a piece of green paper. There was no seal, no hologram, nothing like that. If you could have got a hold of the blanks, you could have made as many driver's licenses as you wanted. There was no photo on them. But it still can be done. It's like you said, it's a lot more difficult now, I think. But we had a case we covered where a lady was found in Utah that had been missing for, I want to say like 7 or 8 months. I can't remember off the top of my head. A good time. And she had just decided to take a powder. Everything that was happening in 2020, with the riots and the elections and just the pandemic and everything going on, she's like, nope, I'm out. And went out and lived in a tent in the woods and foraged for food and bummed stuff off other campers and things. And when they found her, they're just like, well, there's no law against, disappearing or going out and not being a part of society. So they, as far as I know, she went back. But the only thing I can see the problem with that is there's a lot of man hours spent searching for her. That she should have tipped somebody off that, hey, I'm not missing. I'm just going to be
even the police
invisible.
You know what? And here's the advice. Anybody who wants to do that, just tip off the police and say, look, I'm changing my life. I'm going in a different direction. I don't want my family or my friends to know. No, I'm not suicidal. I've turned in my resignation at work. Just let them know.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
I had a case last week, a family from Kingman, Arizona, a mom and her son, and then the woman's new husband. They were supposed to go camping around the Catherine's Landing area out at near, I can't remember the lake there in Arizona. It's at Bullhead City. And after about 2 weeks or so, the family's like, hey, they never came back home. And spent a lot of time searching for them. There was, bolos and all this stuff, be on the lookouts released. And then about a week later, the police released a statement saying that the family had been found alive and well in New Mexico and were where they wanted to be. And there was no problem. So again, they were running apparently from their own extended family. And I think that happens. But to me, the biggest hint was they were last seen driving away with a king-size mattress strapped to the roof of their Toyota. So that didn't sound like they were going camping to me.
No, they were on the move. That is for sure. When you look at the mountains and some of these stories, the ones that really tug at our hearts are children, like the Dennis Martin case. But on your channel, Missing Persons Mysteries on YouTube, you have an entire section of children who almost vanished and their stories. What's this about?
Yeah, those are some of the most fascinating tales to me, where they were gone maybe for a short time, maybe for a little bit longer, and then they just suddenly appear. A lot of times they either won't say or can't say because they're so young where they were or what happened to them. And usually they're found in places that have already been searched thoroughly more than once. And it's just like whatever took them or almost took them brought them back. Had a little guy recently, I don't think we've covered this one yet, A little boy that was found, I think he was 3 years old, found 5 miles away naked, and then nobody knows how he got there. He doesn't know how he got there. Um,
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
With Sunmaid, whole fruits natural sweetness opens a world of imaginative snacks. Take a sweet or sour adventure with fruity raisin snacks. Chill on creamy, delicious yogurt-covered raisins. And for ultimate yumminess, try s'mores granola bites. Because with Sunmaid snacks, goodness really is delicious. Get a taste at sunmaid.com/imagine that.
he wasn't hurt. He wasn't cut up or scratched up or anything. I mean, for a 3-year-old kid to wander 5 miles through the woods, through the forest, that's unheard of. Makes you wonder if something or somebody abducted him and then changed their mind and let him go, or if he just wandered off and liked to strip off. I mean, kids do weird things sometimes. But there's been cases like that of even smaller children, like 2 years old. One little girl had gone up a mountain, down the other side, and back up the other side of the next mountain. 2 years old. They can't traverse that kind of terrain. And she was barefoot, but again, there she was. Did somebody pick her up, take her there, and leave her? Who knows? And there have been some other stories where, robot grandma, they're talking about that one. That happened in Mount Shasta, where a little boy went missing and encountered what he thought was his grandmother. And then it turned out that it was a robot that looked like his grandmother, according to him. And she took him to a cave where there was people like in suspended animation. There was old weapons and purses and camping gear and stuff in there with cobwebs on it. And she insisted that he poop on a piece of paper. He refused to do it. She got mad and said, okay, I'm going to take you back now and leave you on the trail. You stay here. Somebody will find you. Sure enough, they found him later in an area that had already been searched. And he didn't tell that story until a couple of weeks later.
Right.
And then the grandma remembered, Grandma Cappy was her name. She remembered that she had been camping in the same spot prior to that with a friend. She remembered seeing red eyes outside the tent. And then the next thing she remembered, she woke up in the morning outside the tent, face down on the ground, and had a puncture wound in the back of her neck. And she'd kind of forgotten all that until all this happened with her grandson. So did somebody, take something out of her and make a replicant? Shasta's a weird place anyway. You've got New Agers, occultists, Saint Germain that supposedly still walks the place, the Ascended Masters, a city of gold inside the mountain, on and on and on. Shasta's just a weird, weird place. That's one of my favorite places to go, and probably also one of the most dangerous just because of all the things that have happened there.
Well, Sherry brings up a good one from Texas recently, where a 3-year-old boy was following his dog into the woods and disappeared and was found 5 miles away.
Yeah, I think that's the one I was talking about, and he was stripped off, if I believe he was naked.
Yeah, I don't know about
that's
that.
Another thing. A lot of times the dogs and the kids will go missing at the same time. Sometimes the dog comes back without the kid, but the dog always comes back whether it's with the kid or without. Now they find the kid later. But
and something has to be keeping these children safe. Okay, and I'm a firm believer about that. It reminds me of the case a couple of years ago, and thank you, Joe, for bringing it up in our chat room, of the little boy in North Carolina who said he was with a teddy bear for 2 days. Anybody, and everybody's saying, oh, he was with a black bear.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I love that. The authorities like, oh, it was a bear. Everybody go home.
Wasn't.
Nothing to see here. Probably.
No, it wasn't.
Bears don't cuddle children. Bears don't pick berries and bring them back and feed them to kids. All these things that he told, I believe it was some sort of cryptid, like a Sasquatch or something like that has been known to protect not only children but grown people.
Well, if you look at that case, though, if you know anything about bears, okay, and I live in an area where there's black bears, and just a few miles away we get into grizzly territory.
Mm-hmm.
when they are, first off, in the winter, they're hibernating. And even if they're not hibernating, they are angry, they are cranky, and they are hungry because they haven't eaten for weeks, if not months. And the fact that a bear would see a crying child, that's a meal. That's a free. That's a free meal.
That's a burrito.
And then to find the child in a briar patch with no bruises, no freezing, no scratches. I mean, sure, there was a couple of rips on his jacket from the briar patch, an area that had been searched twice or three times previous, and then all of a sudden he's in there? Come on. Come on.
That happens more frequently than you believe. Another little boy told a story that a big doggy took care of him and brought him berries and things. Dogs can't pick berries, okay? None that I've ever seen. Maybe a dog man, but yeah, you hear that. And that's some of the stranger ones, I think, is where there is a story that they tell. It sounds fantastical, but, that's all you have, and believe it or don't.
And a lot of the stories are very Disney-esque because that's the only way the child could explain it.
Yeah, that's their realm. That's what they know. And in the case of Robot Grandma, she even called his father and said, "What kind of stuff are you letting him watch?" He's talking about robots and people frozen in caves, like in suspended animation, and weapons and things. And the dad's like, "Yeah, he told us that story like a few days ago. We have no idea where he got that at." So obviously it was beyond, something beyond the kid's comprehension. And it wasn't something he'd seen on television or something like that. So it makes you wonder. And I think a lot of times that's why things tend to happen to people, either very small children or people on the autism spectrum, especially ones that are nonverbal. They tend to go missing often. And again, they come back, they either won't or can't tell you where they were or what happened to them. So it's almost like whatever it is, or who or whatever that's taking people, it cherry picks people, and the people that can't tell, people that can't relate. And there are people that have had experiences that aren't on either of those ends, but they have no memory of what happened.
Do you think that the creatures that take these people have the ability to wipe their minds? Like we always hear of aliens wiping people's minds or covering up the experiences. Do you think Sasquatch or Dogman have that ability too? Or is the event so traumatic for these kids or these adults that they just don't want to remember or can't remember?
I can kind of see that going both ways, but you hear about like Whitley Strieber, when he talks about his encounters, he saw owls. It was only under hypnotic regression that they were alien grays, and that either they had put the owls in his mind, or just because his mind was so traumatized, didn't understand what it was, that it put the owls in there. And I wondered about that years and years ago, back in the late 90s. I had a Black-Eyed Kids encounter, and I've often wondered if that was really, did I see what I thought I saw? Was it really two little girls in a parking lot behaving that way, or was it some sort of alien? Was it some sort of demonic activity? I don't know, but that's, that was as good of explanation as anything.
Very interesting. I think you told the Black-Eyed Kids story last time you were on.
Yeah, I think I did tell it last time I was here.
You know what? We've got 2 minutes to break. Give us the condensed version of that story for our listeners.
Oh, I was moonlighting, rather, is the word I was looking for, at a place close to where I worked. I was installing a computer network for them, going from dumb terminals to actual computer at everybody's chair. And it was taking me a couple of weeks to do it. I was almost finished up. I would work after hours, after my job was done, and after those people at that place had gone home. I was coming down there about 2 o'clock in the morning, and as I come out, I noticed and this is an industrial area, there's 2 little girls sitting on the far end of the parking lot. And I'm trying to get all my gear in the car. I was driving a Mazda Miata at the time, so trying to put everything in the trunk was like playing Tetris. And 2 little girls stood up, and they kept getting closer. I didn't actually see them move, but every time I looked over, they had walked closer to me. And the bigger of the 2, I'm assuming older, I would say they were probably, the oldest was probably 12, 13. The youngest was probably 10. The taller of the two was talking not to me, but about me, saying things like, he'll give us a ride. He won't leave us out here. He won't leave us stranded. He'll let us in. It's dark. We're lost. He won't leave us out here. He'll give us a ride, just over and over and over like a litany. And I got really spooked. Number one, even if it were just two little girls, I'm not going to put two kids in a car seat that's just meant for one person, and especially not two small children at 2:00 in the morning. But eventually, by the time I got everything in my car and got in my car, they were right up to the door. Still hadn't acknowledged me. It was just the taller one talking to the smaller one, but they were both looking at me. And when they walked under the street light to get up to where I was, I saw that they either didn't have any eyes or their eyes were black. I mean, it was just pitch black in there where their eyes should have been. And that was the most intense, strangest, most irrational fear that I've ever felt. I've encountered some things in the woods that I actually ran from, but this scared me more than that. Two little girls in a parking lot. I mean, but it was what was coming off them, some like almost an evil, a demonic energy or something. It wasn't right, whatever it was. And I took off, jumped the curb, went down through the lawn of the place. And instead of going to my girlfriend's house, which was just a couple miles away, so I could be on time for my other job, I turned the other direction and drove like 90 and 100 miles an hour all the way to my parents' house in Oak Ridge, which is about 17, 20 miles away, something like that. Went to their house, parked behind their house in the yard under a tree, and sat looking out the window and the kitchen door until daybreak, and then called into my other job and told them I was out that day. Again, don't know what.
And that's a perfect place to end it, my friend. A perfect place to end it. We really appreciate it. Steve Stockton is here, Missing Persons Mysteries, his YouTube channel, as well as 13 Past Midnight. We're talking spooky stories all night long. Let's get into some weird, strange creatures when we get back with Steve Stockton on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear. What's that, bud?
Is this a long break?
Yeah, 6 minutes.
Okay, I'll be right back.
And let's see here. Who else we got in here that's come on in that I've missed? Third Phase, I'll ask your question when we come back. I'll put it up top here on the screen, so we'll get to that, guys. Much love for you guys, man. Hope you're doing well. The lovely and talented Lynn Soes. There she is. And who else is joining us? Ian Burwell. Nice to see you. And who else we got? Thank you, Ozzy. Oi, oi to you. The lovely and talented Kira. Appreciate it. Terry Brown. Good to see you. Jurassic Joey. Yeah, Steve Stockton has that awesome voice that, you know, you would expect him to be in a rocking chair, kind of rocking back and forth on a like a ranch type house with a giant wraparound patio or wraparound porch, and just sitting there with a beer in one hand and a corn pipe in the other, and literally just telling stories. Oh, God, I could listen to him all night long, and I know you guys can too. You know, shows like this, I am a big, big fan of shows like this, like Swamp Dweller and Steve, two of my favorites. Lovely Laura Tarnowski, how are you? Crime Web, welcome to our channel. So just so you guys know, Behoff, if you're new to this channel, I just want to let you guys know that we are not a podcast. We are a live radio show. So that means that we do have to take commercial breaks to time out with our radio stations. So you kind of get the back end look of everything. And so if you're wondering what the hell is going on, where's the show, it's because we are on break right now. So I appreciate your patience and understanding on the way we do things, since it is a little bit different, but we appreciate you. Jazz Ramblings, aren't you supposed to be in bed? Bee Gees, what's happening, man? Good to see you. The lovely and talented Tessa. And Owner, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio, another high-class quality YouTube channel you should sign up for. Duke is the grandfather of Bigfootology. Yes. Ross Lambda, good to see you. Tessa from Australia, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Really appreciate that. Much love, Tessa. All right. Good old Super Duke. Dookie, dookie, duke. Duke, duke. Duke, duke. He's like, shut up, Dave. Shut up. All right. Grape ice. If you're wondering, grape ice. All right. Anybody else come in while I was quickly doing this? Lee Veltman, how are you? Yeah, where is Chad Smith? And Bigfoot Michigan Rob, I know he's been busy lately. I'll get a hold of him. Hey, Thin Lizzie Borden, welcome to our channel, by the way. This is your first time here. Really do appreciate that. Steve is a good friend and supporter of this show, not only as a fan, but through KPNL with Ann Celine as well. And I love them both very much. They're very good friends, very kind people and amazing people. And Steve has done wonders to try and help us build our own numbers and everything like that. Eric with a K is here. We have jumped up to being his third favorite show. Last week and for the last few years, we were number 4. But just a few days ago, we pulled into bronze medal contention here as we are number 3. Only by a couple of smidgens, but we are number 3. I want to say a big thank you to Ozzy Tessa, Ed Clater, Mark, the Dutch Princess Sally, Smithy, and Simon ×2 for the amazing super chats. Really do appreciate the love and support of Spaced Out Radio that you guys give. It's a great way to support what we do here on a nightly basis, as we are here 7 days a week. I'm here Monday through Friday, and Lynn Wallington is here Saturday and Sunday nights. We always get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time, and next week we're going to announce some exciting news on the show, and we'll be right back. Jolly Bridge Burner, welcome to our channel. Here we go, everyone. Get your horns up. Bumblefoot is coming.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Wherever you are in this beautiful planet we call Earth, want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kintophobia. Kintophobia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, and we got a great section for our swag. So check that out. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with spooky stories by the man himself, Steve Stockton. Born, raised, beautifully growing out of Oregon in the United States. Doesn't wear a wrestling mask, but that's okay. Doesn't need to. Great hair and beard combination. Got a couple of great YouTube channels. If you want 24-hour ghost stories, it's 13 past midnight. And his big channel, Missing Persons Mysteries. Steve, welcome back.
Thanks. Afraid I wasn't going to make it back in time. I had to run my dog outside, but it worked out just right.
I know that feeling. You know, a couple of years ago, I was actually like 3 minutes late getting back on the air because my dogs decided that they were going to chase around deer, and the deer were teasing my dogs at the fence.
Yep.
And I couldn't get them back in. I'm like, well, what the hell do I do? So I know
that happens here sometimes. My dog Mulder, he's Chihuahua Corgi mix, and see deer out in the street sometimes, and he goes out to the gate and just wants to tear them apart. And the deer just kind of look at him like, yeah, okay, I'm 5 times bigger than you. What are you going to do? But yeah, he's fearless.
I know the feeling with my dogs, and I got big dogs. You know, so, Steve, I got a question to kick things off from the guys at Third Face of Moon in beautiful Hawaii. And they are asking, if you see a black-eyed child or a shadow person, should you approach it?
I would recommend not, just from other stories and things I've heard. Now, in my experience, I didn't approach them. They approached me. But that's just, it was so almost traumatic. There was almost like a type of PTSD that went with it. And my experience wasn't really that scary compared to other people. I mean, I've heard of people where they show up and they knock at the door and almost demand to be let in. And I've only heard of one person who did let them in, and the operative there has only heard of one person. And then the lady's husband died shortly thereafter, and then she developed some kind of weird form of cancer. So don't know if it was the black-eyed kids or not, but I wouldn't take the chance. But that's the thing I wonder. Are there people that have let them in and then we just haven't heard what happened to them? So I wouldn't take any chances. Shadow people, that's kind of a different story. Depending on the story you hear, some of those appear to be malevolent, some of them not so much. I've only seen one, and I believe.
You might like absolute silence or lo-fi beats. Maybe you stand, sit, or relocate every hour. You might want fresh coffee always within reach, or a game nearby for those quick breaks. Whatever your work style, you deserve a setup that inspires. And Best Buy tech experts can help you online, in-store, or at home so you can find what's right for you. Work for you space achieved. Details at bestbuy.com.
At Capella University, you're in control of your education. With the game-changing FlexPath format, you can set your own deadlines and move at your own pace. The faster you move, the more you save. Visit capella.edu to learn more.
It was more of a spirit of somebody that used to live in this house than an actual shadow person. Lady I rent my house from, the widow, she owned several properties on this block. She used to live here with her husband. He was killed tragically one morning on the way to work. Had some sort of medical emergency, crossed the center lane, and hit a logging truck head on in his Saturn. And they believe he was dead before he hit the truck. But either way, he was certainly dead afterwards. It blew him and the car into several pieces. She said she's a first responder and was one of the first on the scene, so it's traumatic for her as well. But one night I was going into the kitchen, I hadn't turned the lights on yet, and I saw the shadow of a person. It came out of my laundry room, walked through the dining room, through the kitchen, and went out the wall behind the stove, which would lead into the garage, is what's on the other side. Mulder saw it. He didn't bark or anything, but he was wagging his tail like, hello, I want to be your friend. But it was obviously, it was shaped like a person. It was walking like a person. It was just a shadow. I could see through it. Now, that's pretty atypical, I think, for a shadow person. a lot of people see them like that menace them, that stand over their bed or that peek around the corner at them, things like that. This one was just passing through. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's not the guy that used to live here. In fact, she told me that after he passed away, and she still lived here, that a lot of times the TV, the stereo, things like that would go kind of nuts. And she said that was his thing. He was in charge of the audio video. And she would have things happen like the TV would come on in the middle of the night on a different channel than the one she was watching, or the stereo would come on not tuned to a station just as loud as it could, and things like that. So according to St. John the Revelator, the dead don't come back, but sometimes they stay. So for whatever reason, I believe Dennis was the guy's name. I think he still visits sometimes.
Well, hey, if you like a place, why not just go there?
Yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of these places that people think of as haunted, like a graveyard and things like that, their body or what's remains of them is there, but I wouldn't go back there. If I was going to haunt someplace, I would go back someplace I was happy. I would think either that or someplace I was the most miserable, so I could scare a lot of people, like some of the places I used to work. I'd love to go haunt those places, but that's always puzzled me. Things like haunted schools, shopping centers, things like that. But then again, that's in the event of a school. Maybe that was where the person was the happiest, or again, maybe they were bullied and it was where they were the most miserable, and they're back to scare the pants off some people. But I've been in a couple of haunted schools. I've got a story on 13 Past Midnight, and it's in my third book, My Strange World, which is my personal experiences. It's in there about the school that I went to and how a friend and I went there, and this has been a long time ago, but I'm not recommending anybody else do that. But we went back and snuck in the middle of the night, found a window that was unlocked, and went in the school. And I was just looking around, and something crossed the gym floor, sounded like a lady wearing high heels. There was enough light coming in from the windows set up high that we could see inside the gym, and it got closer and closer and closer, and we took off. But there was a story that we'd heard prior to that, and depending on which story you heard, there was a teacher that either died at the school after classes were over, or got killed in a car wreck on her way home, or simply just retired and then died. But that was the story. Other people had seen and heard things there, and that was supposedly who that ghost was a teacher that had been there. I did some research into that. Couldn't find any teacher that had died in the school. I couldn't find anybody that taught there that had been killed on the way home. But there were several that had, after retirement, had passed away. So my mom actually went to that school in the 30s, right after it was built. It was part of a WPA project. And she didn't hear those rumors. But when my brother went there in the 50s, there was already the rumors of a ghost teacher going around. So I heard it before I even started there in first through seventh grade.
Armando has a question for you, and he's asking, Steve, how can First Nations or Native American lore shed light on some of these mysteries?
Well, the deeper you delve into the lore, you'll find that a lot of the things that we talk about, they have a story about it. They've got Bigfoot-type creatures that they talk about. They've got little people like the Fae that they one time were at war with, and apparently have some sort of truce with them now. They had stories of strange lights. They had stories of evil entities and things. The Cherokee elders, there's some, and I'm Cherokee on my dad's side. His grandmother was full, so my grandmother half. My dad was quarter and I'm an eighth. But the elders will admonish you about talking about some of those entities, because you can bring stuff to you, according to them, almost like a tulpa, that by talking about it or even thinking about it, you feed into that energy, or you give it energy. And I'm talking about things like Wendigo or certain types of skinwalkers, the legend of Spearfinger that's famous there in the Smokies, which is sort of a Cherokee vampire tale. It's an elderly lady that's able to shapeshift. As elderly lady is how she usually appears. But for her index finger on her right hand, she has a piece of obsidian that's sharpened to a point, and she uses that to extract the liver of children, which she eats. And that's one of the ways you recognize her teeth and around her mouth are bloody. So it's kind of a vampire thing. May just be a cautionary tale, but in the Native American tradition, like you see in the cowboy movies and stuff, where they would show their palms to each other, that's one of the ways you could tell if it was Spearfinger, because she could take on the personage of anyone. It could be one of your friends, your family members. So anybody that had been away from the village or out of the teepee after dark for too long, that was, you asked to see their hand. Spearfinger's heart was in the palm of her hand. And if it was indeed whoever you encountered was Spearfinger in disguise, she would refuse to show you the palm of her hand and would take off. So it's interesting how, a lot of their practices and lore and things just came from stories like that.
No kidding. No kidding. Hey, Steve, a question in regards to, legends and lore, and how do we tell an old wives' tale or a legend from what is reality? How do we find that truth, and so the lines don't get mixed?
Yeah, that's the $1 million trick right there. If you look into a lot of that, I think it was cautionary tales from a time when kids didn't have anything to keep them occupied, didn't have the internet or TV or some places even radio and things like that. But I noticed that a good way to keep kids quiet is to tell them something really scary. And, you lower your voice, and if you go to like historic Jonesboro, Tennessee, it's the home of the International Storytelling Center. And they have the International Storytellers Conference there once a year. You go listen to those professional storytellers, they draw you in. It's almost like in a film, you're watching a scary movie, they've got the sound, it gets really quiet, you're leaning in to watch, and then all of a sudden the violins flare up and you jump. Storytelling is kind of the same way. You bring them in and then drop something on them. But, excuse me, as far as that, I think a lot of that, there is a nugget of truth in there somewhere, like, say, Crybaby Bridge. You can go to just about any community, any little place in the South. There's a Crybaby Bridge. There's also a woman in white that walks the back roads and things. I think that happened somewhere, and the story gets passed along from community to community and holler to holler and all these different little mountain villages, but it gets told a little differently. And maybe the person you're telling it to doesn't know where Hall's Crossroads is. So they say, okay, well, I'll tell it, but I don't know where that is, so I'm going to make it about Maynardville. So that way it gets changed up, but it's the same story. And I've kind of verified that to a degree. My mom and dad were roughly the same age. My dad was born in 1921. He'd be 100 years old this year if he were still alive. He grew up in Middle Tennessee over on the Cumberland Plateau, about 2-3 hours away from where my mom grew up in the Smokies in the Cades Cove area. But yet they heard some of the same stories around the same time when they were kids, but local to them. Like there was a Crybaby Bridge in Jamestown, and then there was one in Cosby, 3 hours to the east. Again, the same story, just a different location. So I think a lot of those things happened once, and then it gets passed around. Another one, Vanishing Hitchhiker. That one is told all over the country. But again, they're in the Smokies. They have the Vanishing Hitchhiker, Roaring Fork Motor Trail, which it's an archetype or a shadow of all the other Vanishing Hitchhiker stories. For anybody not familiar with that, a guy picks up usually a girl that's hitchhiking. She's cold. He lends her his sweater. She's trying to get home, and he either gets to her home and goes around to let her out, and she's not there, or sometimes she just disappears along with his sweater. Well, he goes to the door, knocks. I was giving a girl a ride, but she's not here anymore. I don't know what happened. It'll usually be the girl's mother that opens the door and says, yes, that was my daughter. She was coming home from prom and was killed by a drunk driver, 30, 40 years ago. She's still trying to get home. And the next day, the guy comes back and goes to the graveyard where the mother tells him the daughter's buried, and he finds the borrowed sweater folded up neatly on the grave. So that's just one version of it with different parts, but I've heard it told several different ways.
Couple more questions here. Crime Web is asking, are some people more prone to having these experiences?
As far as the paranormal, I think so. It tends to come from the maternal side. I found more often than not, Like if my mother had experiences, my grandmother had experiences, it came down that side for me. Not so much on my father's side, but then again, my mother's family, my granny, she called herself a gypsy witch, although in Appalachia, she's what they call a granny witch. I don't know where she got the gypsy part at, but that's what she referred to herself as. And they were part of the spiritualism movement around the turn of the last century. They regularly held seances. They did table tipping or table tapping. She told fortunes. She read coffee grounds, tea leaves, animal entrails. She practiced phrenology, which tell your fortune by the bumps on your head, palmistry. She made charms and things like that, and knew every single superstition under the sun. I'm going to write a book on just the superstitions that she taught me. But she was, the wise old crone, just that total archetype. She knew things. She'd experienced things. There were times that she knew things that she didn't have any way of knowing about me, and that used to scare the devil out of me. I mean, she looked like a witch. She was little and kind of bent over and probably weighed all of 89 pounds, looked like a beef jerky covered in leather or something. But she looked like your typical witch. I'll never forget one time we were going to visit her, and on the way there, a place we had to drive through, there was an old farmhouse. This was maybe a half hour, 45 minutes from where she lived. There was an old farmhouse up on a rise, and years prior to that, some kids had been playing in the yard. One of them chased a ball out into the road, got hit by a car and killed. Well, there was something about that place that when we drove through there, I could always feel it. Even if I was laying in the back seat reading a comic book, I would get like a chill. I'd look up, sure enough, we're passing that house. Well, one particular night, we were going to visit her. I felt a chill. I popped my head up over the seat. Sure enough, there's the house. I went back down, was reading my comic book. And we got to her house. She took me into her sewing room, which had been a dining room in this big old Victorian farmhouse. But I don't even remember what the subject started out as, but she was talking about how you feel things. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I have 5 senses, whatever. She's like, no, I mean, you feel things like that spot on the highway on the way here tonight. And I just, my jaw dropped, my eyes got as big as saucers. Says, I hadn't said a word to my parents, certainly hadn't said anything to her, but she knew I had experienced something on the way to her house, and she had no way of knowing that. So,
wow.
Yeah, you didn't mess with Granny.
No kidding. B. Hoff is asking, what was the human Fey war about?
The biggest thing was a respect for nature. The Fey are very into nature and very respectful of nature. And, of course, when the white settlers came in, they tore up everything, chopped down the trees, just disrupted everything for their own need and didn't have any regard for the Fae or what they were already here doing. The same way with indigenous people. Supposedly the wars and problems they had with the Fae were for using things for their own needs without giving something back to the Fae. Again, that's just part of the fairy lore, but who knows? There are places, particularly in Scandinavia, where if they're building a highway, they'll go all the way around an outcropping of rocks rather than blow it up and go straight through them because they're afraid of upsetting the trolls or whatever they believe lives in those rocks.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just it's in all cultures. There's little people in to some degree in all of these cases.
We have 3.5 minutes, Steve. I want to get to one more question, and then next half hour I want to get into more stories with you. But Kaiju is wondering, what's the strangest missing persons case that you have investigated?
Wow, the strangest. They're all strange to some degree. It's just I think some are more stranger than others, are strange in different ways. I guess some of the strangest ones, one in particular, there was a guy who had gone missing, and off the top of my head, I couldn't even tell you what state it was in. It was somewhere in New England. And when they did find him, he was in a boulder field, just a clear area with nothing but boulders in it, and he looked like he'd been dropped from a considerable height. He's all mangled and messed up, but there was no height for him to have dropped from. There was just the woods and then this large clear boulder field. Well, the Algonquin natives have a story about a creature that looks like a rock and its favorite thing to do is to open it up and swallow people and then crush them to death inside the rock and spit them back out. What do you think about that? If this person had been swallowed by the rock, crushed, and then spit back out, he might look like he had fallen from a considerable height and all mangled up and stuff. That's one of the strangest ones as far as no reason for him to be found like he was found in an area that had already been searched, no less. That happens more often than not.
2 minutes to go. What is with these boulder fields? We hear so much about them.
Well, again, it's a supernatural place. There's things in the rocks. I mean, if you believe in the stone tape theory and things like that, certain types of granite or anything with a lot of quartz in it, it can hold on to things and maybe even play things back. The way the stone tape theory works, that's the explanation for some ghost appearances, presumably. Works like, say, a tape recorder. All a videotape or an audio tape is, it's a piece of mylar plastic with ferrous oxide particles adhered to it. You run it over the record heads, and it records. You run it over the play heads, it plays it back. And there are people that claim with a stone tape theory that certain types of stone, under the right conditions, can absorb things that happen and then play that back through some sort of energy that we don't understand. And I'm pretty much a subscriber to that, because if you think about quartz and its properties, you can put it in a watch, and a quartz watch with quartz movement will keep perfect time. There's energy in there. Same with a quartz radio. I remember when I was in Boy Scouts, we made a radio out of some copper wire, an oatmeal box, a razor blade, and a quartz crystal. And that crystal was able to pick up those radio waves and through the other apparatus there, play it back in a way that we could hear. So quartz has some properties that we don't understand. Another thing I've read, or that I don't understand, maybe some people do, another thing I've read is a lot of the ghost trains, the spook lights that they see along railroad tracks, they think it might have to do with the composition of the track bed. That before they put the rails and the cross ties and stuff down there, there's certain types of rock that they spread in there in different layers, then dirt and more rock, cinders, whatever, then cross ties and rails on top of that. Because a lot of times these sightings are places where the rails are already gone, cross ties have long rotted away, but that rail bed is still there. So maybe those rocks capture that and can play back the light of a steam locomotive and the sound. Who knows? It's fascinating to think about.
Absolutely, my friend. And Steve Stockton, our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have him for another hour here on the big show, telling stories, answering your questions all night long. Make sure you hit subscribe on his YouTube channels, Missing Persons Mysteries and 13 Past Midnight. We'll continue with more spooky stories with Steve right after this on Spaced Out Radio. All right, dude, we're clear.
All right. Good deal. A lot of fun here, getting some good questions.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You've always got a good audience here, though.
Yeah, they're all right. I'm teasing. They're amazing. They are amazing. Kaiju, you read my mind. I was going to get into portals and dimensions with Steve coming up here. Yeah, you do got good hair going right now, man.
Yeah, you can't really tell because I've got a black shirt on, but it's getting pretty long out there. And
that's good stuff.
Initially wanted to grow it out and then donate to Locks of Love, but I can't find anywhere around here that does it, so I'm just going to keep growing it and see how long I can get it.
Careful with Locks of Love, because apparently they charge an arm and a leg. They get all the hair for free, and then they charge an arm and a leg for people who are trying to get wigs.
Really? I didn't know that. I'll look around and see if there's not another outfit that does something similar that doesn't charge people for it, 'cause that's a shame.
Yeah.
I know little old ladies that sit around and knit caps for people that are undergoing chemotherapy to wear on their head to keep their head warm and to hide their bald head, and they don't charge anything, so that's
Yeah, it's like Goodwill in the United States. Goodwill is
It's terrible.
yeah, it's not.
Some of them are better than others.
It's not
The
Goodwill, that's for sure.
Yeah, the one that we have here is the Goodwill Industries of the Willamette Valley. The lady there got in so much trouble and had to step down. She was drawing like I think a 7-figure salary or something like that. And, everything they get is donated to them.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the people that they pay there are.
Life can be overwhelming, but help is here. Gulfport Behavioral Health System is your treatment provider for mental and behavioral health issues. For nearly 40 years, we've helped adults, adolescents, and children as young as 4 find the coping skills to get back on track. We're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hope starts here. Visit gulfportbehavioral.com to learn more. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this hospital.
Buy one, get one for $1 at McDonald's. Or as we like to call it, the can't have just one deal. Mix and match a sausage biscuit, sausage McGriddles, McChicken biscuit, chicken McGriddles, or crispy hash browns. Want 2 sausage biscuits? Buy one, get one for $1. Want a sausage biscuit and hash browns? That's cool too. Choose more of what you love. Buy one, get one for $1 at McDonald's. Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Cannot be combined with combo meal.
Special needs people or people that are transitioning out of prison and things like that, they don't have to pay them a full wage. The government picks up the rest of it. So, all that money going to administration, I don't see it.
Yeah, we had troubles with that up here with, I forget the company now, where they were taking a lot of, and the media up here actually caught on to it. They were taking a lot of harassment from people who had donated, and then they go back a week later, and like this one lady donated a ski jacket, went back a week later to do some shopping at the thrift store, and saw the jacket that she donated for free on for $249.
Yeah. And they have a website too, kind of like an eBay type thing. They auction a lot of stuff off. It's high dollar anymore. I've even gone in and seen stuff priced higher than it would be in the store. And I'm like, well, yeah, it goes to charity, but still, the whole idea of a thrift store is you pay less for something, you get a bargain.
Yeah, and that $249, what I recall of that story, that $249 was like $80 more than what she paid for at retail.
Yep, sounds pretty typical.
Yeah.
It's looking kind of scraggly right now, but it'll get there. I don't know. I may shave all this off again. That's what I did last time, just shave the sides because it's standing straight out. Looks like I'm growing wings. My head's trying to fly off my neck. I have been to Target, Kaiji. What's a Target? Somebody saw my book at Target in Florida. That's how you know you made it, when the discount stores have your books. Say if it ever shows up in Piggly Wiggly, I'm going to go do a book signing.
You know what? If I was an author, I would go around looking at the bookstores where my books are, and I would sign autographs in the books.
Yeah, just put them back on the shelf.
Hi, Oli. How you doing? Yeah, just sign them.
That would be cool. Or Connor, Bigfoot Anonymous. Have you ever had him on your show?
No, he's in my chat room quite a bit.
You need to get him on.
Really?
He lights up the entire room. He's written like 4 books on
Really?
Bigfoot and other cryptids. What he does like a guerrilla book signing. He'll take a little folding table and a stack of books and go set up, say, in front of a comic book shop or something.
Yeah.
Sit there and start selling signed books until they chase him away. I'm like, that's brilliant. I've got to try that.
Wow, that's ballsy.
Here's volume 1 of mine, and volume 2, volume 3 is coming out in December. So,
all right. I just want to say a big thank you to Excalibur, Simon ×2, Tessa, Ed, Mark, Sally, and Smithy for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Make sure you check out all of Steve's books and all his team, like Gemma Jade. And
my Gemma's book, too. It's amazing. I've read this like 8 times.
Here we go, buddy. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Steve Stockton from 13 Past Midnight and Missing Persons Mysteries on YouTube. You want to sign up and subscribe and ring the bell on those channels because they are two of the best out there when it comes to real mysterious, creepy stories. And Steve is with us to share some of his information that he has learned in over 50 years of research. And Steve, welcome back.
Well, thanks, Dave. Glad to be here.
Before we get started, Steve, let's do a shout out to our radio audience about your books and your team's books and where they can find these great pieces of writing and get them in their hands.
Okay, well, my books, they're all on Amazon and wherever fine books are sold. My publisher likes me to say that. Strange Things in the Woods, that used to be 2 volumes. It's been combined into 1. Then I have My Strange World, which is a book of just my personal experiences. And then the latest 2, started National Park Mysteries and Disappearances. Now, the first one is all about the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. That is America's most visited national park, so that was why I wanted to start out with that one. Plus, I've prowled all over the Smokies and know it intimately. And then volume 2, I decided to cover some of the second biggest or most visited national park, which is Yosemite. This book covers California. It's got not only Yosemite, but Mount Shasta and Joshua Tree. Couldn't think of the name of the other place. Volume 3 is in the works. That'll be out in mid-December. It's Pacific Northwest, including Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. A lot of creepy disappearances and haunted stuff up here. And then Gemma Jade, my protege, she'd come out with Missing, the Fae Theory. It's how she works the Fae Theory into the missing persons thing. And I wrote the blurb for the back here at the request of the publisher. Gemma's thought-provoking theories solve so many unanswered questions regarding those who have mysteriously disappeared from the face of the earth. Beware the Fae. Steve Stockton, best-selling author of National Park Mysteries and Disappearances. And yeah, the California book, it's back at number 1 again. I think in Shasta Travel Guides or something like that on Amazon.
Wow.
But they're all on Amazon in ebook and paperback format. And going to be giving away some signed copies a little bit later on, probably next month, I think. We're getting ready to do a giveaway on Missing Persons and Mysteries, give away some merch over there, too.
That is awesome. That is very awesome. And I do want to point out that a week ago tonight, we had Gemma Jade on the show here on Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah, so that was a great show.
She was amazing, absolutely amazing. She was so nervous, but she did so well. And, we want to make sure that everybody goes and checks out that show from our archives as well. Steve, I want to get into dimensions and portals because a lot of these people who disappear and vanish into thin air, never mind in the forest where you're battling the elements, but a lot of times in cities or around their own homes, they just vanish and disappear. You hear these stories out of Boston where, the guys are out drinking on a Friday night after work. They're all in their 20s, early 30s, going for a couple of drinks and, they're club hopping. One guy goes into the alley because he's got to take a pee or something like that. And, he's 20, 30 feet away from his buddies and they never see him again. Do you think a lot of this is related to portals and dimensions?
It could be. Now, we've covered that extensively. There's a lot of those cases. And the ones that are found again, they usually show up in a nearby body of water. And they may have been missing for a month, but they're only been in the water for maybe a few days. So where were they all that other time? There's video surveillance of people entering bars and never coming back out ever. or if they do, they're found in body of water, but there's no surveillance of them coming out or anybody putting them in the water. You have that in Manchester. They keep finding people in canals over there in Manchester, UK. They call whatever it is the pusher. They think somebody pushing people into the canals. I lived in Las Vegas for a while. It's got a lot of surveillance cameras there, but the UK has more than any place I've ever been, even more than Vegas. Yet someplace like Manchester that's just literally filthy with these surveillance cameras. They're on every corner. How could they not have footage of somebody, if it is indeed somebody pushing these people in the canal? I think there's something more at work there. Now, there is a theory about the smiley face killers where they've found people in the water and that have disappeared under mysterious circumstances. They'll find a smiley face close by. But again, that's the most popular piece of graffiti there is, at least in the United States. So who's to say if that's not just coincidental? Although I'm not a big believer in coincidence. We did a little 2-part mini documentary about the smiley face killer theory over on the
let's get into that. Let's get into that because that's an interesting theory that there are retired detectives out of New York and Massachusetts that are looking into this smiley face killer theory, which they believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that is a group of serial killers that, will attack anybody. I mean, everything is so ridiculously planned. They just got to find their victim.
Yeah, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he is a retired detective, and there's another guy that's, I think, forensics that works with him. They wrote a book called, it's called Studies in Drowning Forensics. That's kind of where they start putting their theory together. But yeah, they claim that it's like a group of people that meet, on the dark web or somewhere in secret, and these things are orchestrated and planned out. Kind of like they're proving now that the Son of Sam killings were in New York. Berkowitz admitted to being the trigger man on, I think, 2 of those, but he said there were other people involved. And there's a guy with a YouTube channel, just put in Manny Grossman, Grossman. He's blown the whole Son of Sam case wide open and has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is a group of people that was doing that. And these guys conjecture that it's kind of the same thing with the smiley face killers, that it's some people say it's even truck drivers. They travel across country, they meet up, kill somebody, and then get back in the truck and go on their way. But it gives you pause for thought, when you kind of use that as a template and overlay what's going on, and that's one of the explanations that does fit.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. But let's get back to portals and dimensions here, because a lot of the UFO talk recently is, where do these craft or these potential beings come from? Is it outer space? Is it from the future? Or is it from parallel universes or dimensions? Do you have any stories on dimensions or portals regarding this?
Yeah, I had a lady that we do a listener stories compilation every so often over on Missing Persons and Mysteries, where people send in their supernatural, unexplained encounters with anything. It doesn't just have to be about missing stuff. And I had a lady write in. I even invited her on the show, and we interviewed her about it. When she was a little girl, the neighborhood that she lived in is a rural area, and some people up the street from her had a Coke machine on their front porch. And she said it was, just a way to make a little extra money. Plus, it was kind of a neighborhood gathering place. People would come up and buy a Coke out of the machine and stand around on the porch and talk. Well, she's on her way up there to get a Coke, and on her way, it's just a straight shot from her house right up the street. Well, on her way there, she passes a man standing in a vacant lot, and he says, "Nice day, isn't it?" or something like that. But before you get the words out, he's just disappeared and gone. And she's thinking that was weird. And as she's going on to get her Coke, she's thinking more about that vacant lot, thinking, why did we never notice that before? That'd be a great place to play kickball or just hang out. Where she gets her Coke, turns around and walks back. Well, she passes where she saw the vacant lot and the man. There's no vacant lot there. There's a building there, a house, I think. And she said she knew there was no vacant lot there, but it just didn't dawn on her. That house had been there as long as she could remember. Of course, she was just a little kid. But when she passed by it the first time, it was a vacant lot with a man standing in it. and then he disappeared as he was talking to her. And she believes that somewhere the dimensions kind of got too close together. She described it as, say, silk screens, where if you can see through one to the other, and sometimes they get just a little too close and they touch, and you can see everything in both sides of the screen, and then they part back. But since she knows that she saw the man, she talked to the man, she was observing the vacant lot and thinking about it, till on the way back it dawned on her, well, it's not here, and there's never been a vacant lot there. And she thinks that somewhere there's probably a man that was standing somewhere and watched a little girl walking down the sidewalk. He said hi to her, and she disappeared. So it probably goes both ways. And I think there is something with that, with the portals, with the dimensions. I don't know if I think it kind of runs congruent with ours, that there's several dimensions that are there all the time, and we can't see them, but sometimes they kind of bleed over into one another. There's been some disappearances like that where people are maybe on a trail, and then suddenly they realize they're not on a trail. They look back behind them. They haven't been on a trail in a long time. Nothing looks familiar. It's like all of a sudden they're in one place, and then suddenly they're another, like stepping through a portal. And there's been cases where people could see and hear people searching for them, but they obviously couldn't see the person that's being searched for. They're yelling, they're jumping, they're calling back, waving their arms, and so the people would just pass them right on by, at a distance. So it's like there was a separation there, but she could still, this one particular lady, she could see and hear the people searching for her, but they couldn't hear her. She said, I'm screaming. And she said, they're just like on the top of a ridge. I can see them. There's no way they couldn't hear me and see me. So that kind of things happens. And then it does happen in the cities. I had a thing happen in downtown Portland one time that I think was some kind of time slip. I was coming around the corner by an old building from probably the early 1900s. And as I went around the corner and turned left, somebody was coming around the corner the other direction, turning right. And he had on like an 1800 style suit and a tall hat. It wasn't a top hat, but a taller type hat. And just so I went around the corner, I thought, man, what's that get up for? Is there some kind of steampunk something going on? Or is this guy a role player? I've got to get a better look at that outfit. So I immediately just turned on my hill, went right back around the corner. There's nobody there. The sidewalk, and there was no doors or anything on that side for a couple of blocks. It's just this huge building. There was nobody there. There was traffic. He couldn't have got out of sight because literally I stepped around the corner, turned around, and stepped back, and the guy was gone. And I'm thinking that maybe a long time ago, back in the 1800s, there was some banker or something walking down the sidewalk here in Portland and saw some weirdly dressed guy in an Iron Maiden T-shirt pass him on the corner. Like, what was that?
Wow.
But those time slips can happen anywhere at any time.
Yeah, no kidding.
But is it a portal? And that also plays into your talking about the stairs in the woods. I've heard people conjecture that that's where the portal is. And if you think about it, if you had some sort of craft that needed to land someplace, like back when I was a kid, you flew on a jet, they wheeled the stairs out to the plane, and you went out and climbed up and got on the plane. Same thing, you get ready to come off the plane, deplane, they open the door, there's a pair of stairs rolled up to you. Well, you couldn't do that out in the forest or the woods, but why not, if you were going to land a craft in a certain area often, why not build a set of stairs there? Then that your craft comes through the portal, and there's already a place there for. I mean, you would think if they could pilot a saucer, they wouldn't need stairs, but who knows? Maybe it's us from the future, and we still have to walk downstairs.
Couple of questions regarding portals here. Kira is asking, are portals ET doorways?
I think so. I mean, who knows what's on the other side? Like I said earlier, I'd love to find out. I would step through one if I had my little dog with me. I wouldn't want to leave him behind. But again, I might find myself in some place fighting dinosaurs and monsters. But it's interesting to know what's over there. I've heard a lot of stories. Somebody had asked a story earlier about, or asked a question earlier about Skinwalker Ranch. They've observed all kinds of different portals there. They're the first family that started experiencing these things. I can't remember the lady's name, but she was washing dishes once, looking out the kitchen window. She sees what looks like a hole opens up out in the field. A dog man comes strolling out on two legs with that mad look on his face, stomps off into the woods, the hole closes back up. Another time she was, I think she was on the porch that time looking out. She saw a portal open up in front of her, and she said there was a guy sitting at a desk, like writing or typing or doing something, looks up and notices her and kind of frowns at her, and then the portal closes back. So that makes you think that there's some sort of government or a systematic involvement of somebody that has control over these things, like whoopsie, hit the button and the portal opened, and oh boy, she saw me, click, hit the button, close it back. So,
okay, before I get to the next question, I want to ask you, because I always ask this question to a lot of cryptid hunters. You know, when it comes to things like pterodactyls, people seeing mini dinosaurs, or even the Thunderbird these days, I often wonder, because there is such a lack of evidence and photographic evidence, video evidence, or even evidence such as, you know, a 40-foot pile of scat from a Thunderbird. I often wonder if these people are looking into a previous time. And I'm curious your opinion of this, because I just don't see where a 40-foot bird like a Thunderbird, you know, which may have existed during dinosaur times, could be existing today. I mean, the bird scat alone would paint a vehicle.
Yeah. Well, again, that's one of those things. That would be a possible explanation, because people do see these things. I mean, you have was it Maleki Mimbe in Africa, the brontosaurus type thing that they've seen. You have the Thunderbirds in the Southwest. You've got the pterodactyls. I think those have been seen like in Ohio or somewhere like that. And there's actually a picture. There's two different ones floating around the internet. One is purported to be a fake, and the other was from Saga, I think, magazine back in the 60s, 50s or 60s. That's supposedly real. A bunch of cowboy-looking guys holding a pterodactyl with its wings stretched out, and they've got their rifles and stuff. I think that, or maybe it's they are in another dimension, or maybe in the past and somehow come through, because occasionally they find things that they think are extinct. Like what's the fish? I'm probably going to mispronounce it. Coelacanth or coelacanth or something like that. Fish that they thought was extinct millions of years ago, yet they've found them. You know, they have them. It's not just a conjecture or rumor. And, you know, it was on up into, I think, the 1910s or 1920s before they proved that the great apes existed. They thought that was a myth.
Platypus.
That's something that people had just made up. Yeah, so who's to say? But I'd like that idea. If things can pass through a portal and move from one time to another, or if somehow there's a rift in, I don't know, the space-time continuum, we can catch a glimpse into the past or into the future, I think that would account for a lot of things. And
feel like changing things up at home? Make room for new fall favorites during Kohl's Home Sale. Shop now to save 20% and over on Food Network outdoor grilling and dining, 25% on Quilt from the Big One, and up to 50% on Sonoma Goods for Life decor. Save now at Kohl's.com.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
Also, there's a lot of vibrational theory there that there's a joke by comedian Mitch Hedberg that all the pictures of Bigfoot is blurry because Bigfoot himself is blurry. But, you know, there might be some truth in that. If it's a being that vibrates at a higher or lower frequency, it's going to appear different to our field of vision and the light levels, the light waves and things that we can see and perceive. So maybe there's some truth to that. And maybe, who knows, maybe it's learned as a form of camouflage how it can make itself vibrate at a higher or lower rate, effectively appearing invisible to humans or not appearing to humans, such as the case may be. That's the kind of stuff that rattles around in my head. I mean, that you can conjecture all day long, but some of that just, it kind of makes sense based on what people have seen and reported. And I don't think everybody's just making stuff up or lying. I think, you know, that people have seen some of these things. Loch Ness, the monster there, Nessie, that's thought to be some kind of holdover, like a plesiosaur or something like that. But again, other people claim it's a demon. That was why Aleister Crowley chose the shores of Loch Ness to do his magical workings and black magic there. So who knows?
We got 4 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Steve Stockton is our guest tonight. Steve, the guys from Third Phase are asking, could portals be nature or natural in nature, or is it a design by an intelligent being?
Well, again, that's one of those things. It could be either or both. I mean, you have things in nature that are by that type of design, that camouflage, the insects that look like a tree, or a little bug called a walking stick, or something that can blend in, a chameleon type effect. Or if you were designing something like that, like we were talking about the predator creature, the cloaking device, that there could be things like that in the woods that aren't cloaked so much as they're hidden for a reason. And you can, if it's something you can step through. You ever had Andrew Basiago on the show?
No, you know what? He's always dodged us. Always dodged us. And then he got into some health problems.
Yeah, those of you that don't know, he's an attorney across the river here in Vancouver, Washington. And he claims that he was a part of Project Pegasus when he was a child. And he's about my age, I think. And they had almost like a Stargate set up in this place. And they could send him anywhere in the country in real time, or they could send him back in time. He has a photo that he claims to show him when they sent him back to witness the Gettysburg Address. And he also claims that he met an 8-year-old Barack Obama, who was part of the program, and told him, man, I'm going to be president one day. So it's a compelling story, and he's either telling the truth or he's the best actor ever, because he is just so sincere, and the way he tells it is consistent. I'd love for you to have him on, but I haven't seen him on anywhere in a while. You're right. He may have had some health problems.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always wanted to interview him, though.
And then Robert Guffey that wrote Camelio. Have you ever had him on?
No.
That'd be another guest. Camelio, he talks about the cloaking stuff and how it's part of the military, and that they use little people, like short stature, dwarf, midgets. I'm not sure what the right nomenclature is. Don't mean to insult anybody that's one of those groups.
What's his name?
Robert Guffey. And the book is Camelio, like chameleon without an N on the end of it. And he had this friend who was a drug addict that had all these weird experiences, and he claimed these little midgets, invisible midgets, that's his word for it, were breaking into his house and messing with stuff. Well, Robert Guffey wrote a lot on it and talked about how if it were the government experimenting, which is what he claims it is, what better people, the homeless, the disenfranchised, drug addicts, people like that nobody are going to believe anyway. It was almost like a gang stalking type thing, but it was done by invisible beings of short stature. That'd be the best way to say it without insulting anybody. But he'd be a great guest. I've heard him on, he was on Conspire Normal, I think, with Adam Sane. Yeah, I'm friends with him on Facebook. Let me send him a message, and I'll
definitely.
Get him on.
I've got get me an email for him, because I would like to get him on the air to talk with either myself or Lynn here.
It's a fascinating story.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally. We've got about 35 seconds here. And do you think there is any frequencies these portals could be picked up? 20-second answer.
That's something to think about. I mean, the plants give off secret frequencies, or not secret, but you have to have the right equipment to listen to them. There's a documentary I watched one time called The Secret Life of Plants, and that's what this guy did. He had some sort of meter capable of tuning in to plants, and he claims that they sing, that they talk to one another. The plants have their own language. So if you could pick up plants, I think you could pick up portals. There's another guy that does the same thing with ants, that claims that he can hear ants communicating with each other.
Wow.
Not in an audible voice, but in a frequency channel.
Wow. Steve Stockton is here for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. His YouTube channels, 13 Past Midnight, Missing Persons Mysteries. We continue, and then at the bottom of the hour, it's Dave 101. Is ufology dying? All right, brother, we're clear.
All right. How long we got? I'll be right back.
6 minutes.
6. Okay. I'll be right back.
Thank you, Kaiju. Yeah, Steve is amazing. He is amazing. My headphones are bugging me tonight. Thank you, Third Phase. I'm excited for that one. Hey, guys, is this one going to be available in Canada? Because I know your last one's on Amazon Prime. We couldn't get them up here. Hey, Polly Poopy Pants! What's happening? There's Polly Poopy Pants, everyone. Look at that. Oh, Polly Poopy Pants. Polly Poopy Pants. Yes. There's my man. It's my best friend. One of my best friends. Polly Poopy Pants. I'll even run my hair. You know what, Polly Poopy Pants? Just for you, I will use some True North here. Now, we're getting into the season. I'll use some winter blend of Mighty Moose beard oil. And if Gary the Dutchman's watching, he's going to be pissed off because I'm going to give you a promo code for this. All you do is drop it into your hand, like so, and then just massage it in. That's it. Massage it in. It's good for men on their beards. It's great for the ladies and men with nice hair. It oils and moisturizes naturally. It's no chemicals, all natural. Helps prevent split ends. And you can use it. Use promo code SOR19 by going to MightyMooseBeard.com. Tell them Polly Poopy Pants sent you. Yeah. Polly Poopy Pants, it's 11 o'clock. What are you doing awake? Usually in bed like 2 hours ago, man. 3 hours ago. Casual conversation, gorgeous Gloria. Yes, he really did poop his pants. That's why we call him Polly Poopy Pants. But I tell you, don't call his wife Mrs. Poopy Pants. She will go ballistic on you. No. I made that mistake. She chased me with a butter knife. Through a telephone. Can't believe Polly Poopy Pants is here. That just makes me happy. MightyMooseBeard.com. Get your beard oil today. Ladies, you can use it too in your hair. Use promo code SOR2019. That is awesome. I can't believe Polly Poopy Pants is here. I am Canadian. Hey, Ross Smith, how you doing? SOR 2019 is the code. So, Mighty... Here, I'll type this in. Mighty Moose... Oops, I already spelled it wrong. Moosebeard.com. Promo code... SOR 2019. Just like that. No, Chad Smith is not Polly Poopy Pants. No, Chad Smith is a different identity whatsoever. Mondak, what's happening? Well, there's Starlight. The old Polly Poopy getting some love. Justin S., what's going on? I know Polly's laughing right now. I can feel it. He's probably out on his deck having a cigarette right now, maybe a beer, or he's sitting on the john while having a poop and drinking a beer and having a cigarette and listening to the show. So he can't type because his hands are filled right now. Probably, Kaiju. Probably. Yes, Zero Cool. Or he's sitting with Bigfoot, both pooping, smoking a cigarette. That is very true. Burger Hustler, welcome to our channel. Thank you. Hey, a big thank you to Excalibur Full, Simon ×2, Tessa, Smithy, Sally, Mark, and Ed for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support this show throughout and what we do on a nightly basis. Hi, Terrible Times. How you doing? And thank you to all the veterans who are tuning on in. Remember, you always have a safe home here on Spaced Out Radio. And, of course, to all our regulars who are here nightly, we absolutely love you and appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to stick around. I got the Dave 101 at the bottom of the hour. Steve Stockton, get ready. Horns up, people.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go, kicking off the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. And we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kintophobia. Kintophobia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce you to Steve Stockton. He has a couple of very popular YouTube channels. 13 Past Midnight, which is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on ghost stories and old-time radio. I love it. And, of course, his big channel, Missing Persons Mysteries, where it goes into the weird, strange dealings of people who just vanish. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Thanks again, Dave.
All right. I want to get into Sasquatch and Dogman. We haven't really touched these tonight. And these creatures are apex predators for the best that we know. We don't know if they are natural to this planet. We don't know if there's some kind of rogue government experiment. We don't know if it's, a lot of First Nations legends where, especially with Bigfoot, that the Sasquatch means a wild man. Or in my area, they call it the squitch, that means wild man as well. Okay, where a long time ago, rogue First Nations people ran away from their tribes and their reserves, and they ended up, becoming wild people of the forest. We don't know what they are, if they're from outer space or what have you, or maybe they're part of the Fey realm. What's your opinion on Sasquatch and Dogman regarding where they are from and what they are?
Well, Dogman, to me, is kind of a newer entity on the scene. We've heard about Sasquatch now for a long time. And if you look into that, it goes back. And Sasquatch, it's kind of in all cultures to some degree. I mean, you have it in the Asian countries. You have it throughout North America, South America. Not a lot in the UK in that area, but there are some occasional reports. I think that it is some sort of creature that doesn't exist, but I'm not sure how much of it is entity and how much of it is just, something that a species that we're not aware of. And kind of just, if you look at all the different stories and put them together, it seems to be a blend of both. And I think the thing with Dogman, it's the world's gotten a lot smaller with the advent of the internet, and people are able to tell stories and get them out there quicker. And then that'll kind of jar other people to think, oh, yeah, I had a similar experience. Maybe that's what I saw or what I encountered. Dogman, he sort of seems to me to be a take on the European werewolf legends, because you have places where you have both. Like in New Orleans, they've got the Loup-Garou, which is the werewolf, or in Louisiana, and then they've got the Rougarou, which is the Dogman. Totally separate creatures, but similar. And I think it's just something that's come more to the fore. Who knows? Maybe the Dogman has just ramped up his practices recently within the last couple of decades or so. But again, it kind of goes into all the native traditions and stuff. There's a lot of animals like that. There's one I've been hearing about recently called the knot deer. It's a deer, but it's not a deer. It's a deer that can walk on two legs. So that's kind of creepy to me. I just imagine the ones out here I'm going up and down my street walking on two legs. But I heard a real interesting story.
Can I ask you a quick question before you tell that story?
Sure.
What's the difference between a knot deer and what we're hearing about this Wendigo?
Probably not much. I think it is just some sort of shapeshifter or a creature that any of those, especially in the Navajo tradition, some of your Southwest U.S. tribes, their shapeshifters can take on anything, any type of shape or form. But this story, I can't remember. I think this was, I want to say it's Colorado. A guy had pulled over for whatever reason. I think he's in a big truck, and he might have just pulled over to get some rest. And he saw a deer come down a grassy hill, comes up to the guardrail. He's watching it. Suddenly turns into a man. It wasn't a two-legged deer, but it just turned into a man. Steps across the guardrail, walks across the road, steps across the guardrail on the other side, turns back into a deer, and bounds off into the woods. And the guy's like, I was sober. I was wide awake. I know what I saw. What on earth was that? I mean, again, is that a knot deer or is that a shapeshifter? It sounds more like a shapeshifter to me. He didn't mention whether the person appeared to be indigenous, Native American or not, but I'd be willing to bet that it probably was. Those the shaman and the mystics, and they're particularly in the southwestern tribes, there's some strong magic out there, Dave. Like that area where Skinwalker Ranch is, the Navajo and another tribe, I want to say the Utes. There was a big war there, but like a magic war between the shamans and the medicine men. And a lot of people claim that all that's going on out there now is residuals of that stuff that's gone on for a long time, or went on for a long time ago, and is still to some degree. But I think Dogman, he's a cryptid. He's like the Bigfoot or the night walkers or night crawlers. I'd love to know what those things are. They've seen those in San Diego and again at Yosemite. It looks like stilts with a pair of pants on it, and just it's walking around by its own volition. Frightening. No head, no body, just a pair of legs, but it's draped in some kind of pants. There's even a lot of people that subscribe to the theory that all these things that aren't human, the cryptids and the strange anomalous entities, are fallen angels. That part, the Nephilim, that they can take on shapes and appear frightening. And I've heard other people claim that, the veil between the two worlds, it normally thins out this time of year. But I've heard people say that in this year in particular, that it's been getting thinner all year. And that's why we're seeing so much unusual stuff and such a rise in entities and supernatural experience and things, that something is going on the other side. And it's getting crazier out there in our world because of it.
Very strange. Gloria wants to know, out of all the stories that you have covered over the years, do you have one that really sticks out for you that you haven't shared that maybe freaked you out a little bit?
I would have to think. Pretty much everything I've shared, though. I like to talk. I like to come on shows like this. There's not really anything I've held back. Now, I didn't tell the Black-Eyed Kids story for a long time, just because it did unnerve me. So it's gotten easier to tell. I'll probably never write that one down because I don't think I could ever convey the fear that I felt. First time I ever told it was on the old Art Bell show. Art was sick that night, and Heather Wade was filling in for him. And she and I are friends in real life, and she goaded me into it. But I've had strange things happen that night and subsequent other nights that I've told it, but it seems to lessen over time. Gosh, I've pretty much anything that I've experienced, I've already covered it in one of my books, or I've talked about it. Probably the ones that I haven't told yet are the ones that I haven't experienced yet.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
With Sun-Maid, whole fruits natural sweetness opens a world of imaginative snacks. Take a sweet or sour adventure with fruity raisin snacks. Chill on creamy, delicious yogurt-covered raisins. And for ultimate yumminess, try s'mores granola bites. Because with Sun-Maid snacks, goodness really is delicious. Get a taste at sunmaid.com/imagine that.
Working on that. I've got a trip planned out to Joshua Tree, probably in January or February. And then when it gets a little warmer, I'm going to take a group and go up on Mount Shasta and see what we can see. So that'll be the ones to watch for, the ones that I haven't experienced yet, because you guys will be the first to know. But I've experienced a lot of different things. Said I'd love to see a Bigfoot. I've never seen one. I live out here in the middle of Bigfoot country, and it's not for lack of looking. Said I've seen the footprints. I've smelled them. I've heard them. I've been in close proximity to them, I believe, but never had a sighting. That's on my bucket list.
Have you ever talked to him?
No, I kept quiet when I was out there. Because, I've heard that their language is, from what I've heard, that people that have heard them talking, that it sounded like sort of an Asian or maybe a Chinese dialect that's sped up and backwards. There's a chatter, and I've heard recordings of it, and it does sound weird. We got a guy over in Washington State here that goes out in the woods and drums for Bigfoot. He takes a full, like a rock kit out there with a bass drum and a snare and cymbals and a tom, and sits out there and does a rock and roll beat and claims that the Bigfoot enjoy it. I don't know. That's his story, but he has had experiences. One time when he was playing the drums, he said something ran down the hill and jumped over a dirt road. He said that would have taken him at least 2 or 3 strides to cross.
One of the mysteries I always like about Bigfoot, and maybe you've noticed this too, usually you only find one track or one print, and it's usually the right foot.
Yep. The 2 different ones that I've seen were both right foot. One of them was in the mud, and that was in East Tennessee. I can't give the area. I'm kind of sworn to secrecy. A guy didn't want me to tell where because he said everybody would show up and trample his property, and he likes to lease it out to deer hunters. And the other was up here in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest above the snow line a few years ago. And it was going into the snow, but it was just one footprint. But it looked like maybe he'd walked up, stepped in the snow, like, oh, that's cold, and then just stepped below the snow line and continued on maybe. But it is weird. Now, I've got some other stories of people that have found strange footprints. There's one where a guy was out in the snow and found what looks like a child's footprints, like a toddler. He followed them into the woods. They came to a little clearing, and then they just ended. So what was that? Where did it go? Why would there be a 2-year-old out walking in the snow barefoot? And furthermore, did it just go straight up? What happened? To me, that's the really creepy stuff. They had that at Skinwalker Ranch. They talked about losing cattle. And then when it came a big snow, they thought, all right, we'll figure out where our cattle's going. Well, they followed the cattle tracks right up to the wood line. They stopped. Nothing beyond that. Cow didn't turn around and come back out. But the guy did observe up in the tops of trees, there were a bunch of big broken branches and limbs up there. So he said it looked like whatever took the cow took it straight up. So again, is that UFO? You have the cattle mutilations and the cattle abductions dating back to at least the 60s, I think, if not beyond that, with the most famous one, Skippy the horse.
Tell us that story.
The lady in Canada. That was her lady's horse had gone missing, and she wandered around. She had a big farm or adjoining property or something, and when she found it, it was obviously quite dead. Its organs, reproductive organs, had been removed. She said it looked like with a scalpel, and it was totally denuded of flesh from the neck up. I don't remember if it was including the head or up to the head, and it had been exsanguinated. There was no blood, no liquids of any kind in it. And I think the eyeballs were gone, but some of that can be explained. Eyeballs, that's insects and things will do that. But as far as taking all the flesh or drinking all the blood out of it or removing genitals with surgical precision, I don't see that being insects. Which that's what the skeptics claim, that it was some type of blowfly or something that.
So what do you think is the story or the mystery behind only seeing one print or having a bunch of snow happen and the tracks just vanish? I know the idiots at BFRO believe that Sasquatch is only going so far and then walking back in its same prints. Yet there's no proof of a double print inside that step. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing.
I've heard that theory, but if you've ever tried that, it's almost impossible.
I agree with you.
I've tried that. I've tried to walk backwards in my own tracks in the snow, and you can tell it leaves a double impression, and you can tell where the weight of the foot is hit on the heel and the ball of the foot. It works differently when you're walking backwards.
Agreed.
So I don't know. I don't know what the one track thing is. That might even point to a hoax. But like I said, the place where I saw it, why would anybody try to hoax somebody in the absolute middle of nowhere, where there's not going to be anybody around or anybody? I mean, to have a successful hoax, you've got to leave something where people are going to find it. Hopefully more than one person is going to see it and marvel over it.
Well, the two prints that we found here, way out in the boonies, one my buddy found, it was right on a logging road. And if you've been on a logging road, you know how compact that gravel road is. It's like concrete. And there was one print in there, and the other print we found about 200 excuse me. We found about 200 feet in the forest from it, and it was about 3 inches smaller.
Yeah. Strange. Yeah, the one I found above the snow line, I wasn't even looking for Bigfoot tracks necessarily at that point. We knew there were sightings in that area of the forest that we were in. But it was like April or May, and I just wanted to walk up and see the snow. And my friend that I was with, she stayed by her Jeep. And I said, I just want to walk up and look at the snow. So I had to walk through the woods. I mean, I could see the snow off in the distance. So I walked up there to where the snow line was. And then here's this giant footprint. And I yelled for him, like, come and look at this. And there was a little bit of melt there. So, again, that could account for the size of it. But it was a bare, human-looking foot, 5 toes. And but it was kind of at an angle on a bank. So whatever could have been walking, could have just stepped inadvertently in the snow and then got back, just stepped over out of the snow if his feet were cold or whatever. But strange. But yeah, the one that I found in Tennessee, it was in an area near a creek, near a marshy area, but where the one footprint was really boggy. And then around there, the earth was soft, but not like it was where that one print was sunk in. So that would kind of be understandable that it steps in, it starts to sink, and jumps over here, because I've heard about Bigfoot leaping over a paved highway. Another story similar to the one about the drums. A guy was walking in the woods with his family, and something ran out of the woods and jumped over a 2-lane road, landed on the other side and ran off into the woods. So, anything that big, and if it's agile enough and can leap like that, then maybe that's why it doesn't leave footprints. Maybe we're not looking far enough apart for them. instead of just a little 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 like humans do.
No, very true. Very true. Steve, we only got about 5 minutes left with you tonight. And I like this question for B-Hoff. We'll end on kind of a funny mode here. How about any Bigfoot pee or poo? Never found? Serious question.
Well, and that's a serious thing to look at. Pee, I don't know. How would you know it was Bigfoot? But one of your friends, Butch Wiskowski, he had a photo that he was shopping around there for a while that he claimed might be Bigfoot scat. Did you ever hear anything else on that? I think he was going to see if they could pull DNA.
I have never heard about that since.
But I've got the picture somewhere. I don't have it readily available, but it's, I mean, seriously as big as my arm. And he had there was a cigarette pack and looked like a McDonald's cup lid there next to it for comparison. And if that was Bigfoot, he takes some serious poos. But it's the only thing I can describe it. It looked like a human excrement, but times 10. If it was a person, that was their proudest accomplishment right there. But other than that, I mean, I've heard little bits and pieces that people would find scat that they couldn't explain necessarily, that looked too large or that didn't look like. For people that study and know that sort of thing, that track animals and things, you can tell about any animal by its scat. Bear scat looks different than deer scat, which looks different than a rabbit or a coyote or a dog or whatever. So if those people that specialize in that sort of thing, if they find something they can't identify, I would say it could be a cryptid like that. Same token, though, people ask why they've never found a Bigfoot skeleton. Well, have you ever seen a bear skeleton or an elk skeleton or even a deer? The only thing I've ever come across out there like that was a deer that somebody had poached and left the carcass out there. Just because you can't find the skeleton doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Look at the fabled elephant graveyard on the African continent. Supposedly there's somewhere that elephants go to die that nobody knows where it's at. You know, something as big as an elephant, how could you hide that? Of course, Africa, that continent's a big place. But again, same thing with missing people. You have people that go missing in the woods, never a trace. I mean, and even if there were animal predation and things, everything, I mean, animals, a bear or a cougar or things like that, they're not going to eat your clothes. They're not going to eat your shoes. Certain small bones have been found in some of these cases where people had their bones scattered by the animals. But the shoe thing, that brings up a whole other case there. A lot of people, they'll find their shoes and not the person. And there's some strange theories on that. Like, if you've ever read the short story, about the guy that wants to hunt humans, the most dangerous game. If you wanted to hunt humans and give them a sporting chance, take their shoes and turn them loose in the woods. They could run, but not very far and not very fast. And it'd be easier than, hunting somebody with their shoes on and running through this. So that kind of leads into that whole smiley face killer thing, that maybe they take their shoes and then hunt them for sport. And the theory on that comes from here in Portland. You have Shanghai tunnels where they used to drop people down a chute in the back of a bar or a brothel after they've been drugged, and then they ended up on a boat headed toward Asia. That's the whole Shanghai part of it. Well, I've toured those tunnels, and down there it's sandy, but there's also still these giant shards of broken glass from antique bottles. You think about that. You drug somebody, you drop them down a tunnel, take their shoes, and then in the area you drop them in, it's covered in broken glass. They're not going anywhere if they do come to before you get them on a ship. Frightening to think about.
No, very true. Very true. Steve, we have 1 minute left with you tonight, and I want to say a big thank you for coming on the show. Do me a favor, tell everybody your YouTube channels and where to find your books.
YouTube channels, Missing Persons and Mysteries. That's the big channel. It's just what it sounds like. The emphasis will always be on missing persons, giving closure to families or bringing the missing home. The mystery side of that, we take a lot of leeway with that. Some strange, some supernatural, particularly personal encounters. Listener stories is a great segment that we have on there. Also, 13 past midnight, I'll be going live on there in about a half an hour. Join me over there. That's mainly ghost stories, some other stuff, a little bit of this and that. That's my personal channel. Books are available on Amazon and wherever fine books are sold in ebook and paperback versions.
My friend, it is always a pleasure to have you on. I'm going to try and sneak you back on in December so that way we can have some spooky stories going into the new year. I think
that'd be great. I've got a whole series I do on the Victorian tradition of ghost stories for Christmas.
Beautiful.
So
let's do that. I'll talk to you in a couple of months. Steve Stockton, everybody, one of the best dudes, literally, in storytelling and research of the cryptid and paranormal world. Coming up next, we have Dave 101, so stick around. Is ufology on its last breaths? We'll talk about it next. And then we got Shirky Poo's Newswire, the thought of the day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Steve Stockton, everybody.
Oh, thanks, everybody. Sheila Loy, I love you, too. I'd love the love that I get when I come over here. You've got a great audience, Dave. A lot of my people are here, but a lot of these are your people, too, and I always feel warm and welcome when I come over on here.
Dude, I think you are personally responsible for probably, I'm going to say, 600 of our subscribers.
Right on.
Honestly, and thank you for that. I mean, you're amazing, and I mean that truly when I say you're one of the good guys in this field, and you're a real blessing to this field, and I'm so glad to be able to call you a friend, man.
Same, Dave. Need to get you on sometime on Missing Persons and Mysteries. We do campfire stories on Friday. Do a live panel. I'd like to get you on there sometime and interview you. And that way I can introduce you to 117,000 of my closest friends.
I would love to do that, bud. I would love
to. We'll set that up.
What time do you usually do that at?
We do that on Fridays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m.
I would even get off. Even get off work early to do that with you, man.
Okay. And somebody's asking there. I saw a question if I know David Politis. I have met David. He was at Squatch Fest here in Longview, Washington, a couple of months ago. Got my picture made with him, and I'm holding my book. Sort of trolled him a little bit there, but I appreciate Dave and the research that he's done and the light that he's shed on the whole missing 411 thing.
Really, he's amazing. Really is amazing. All right, my friend, I got to go prep for Dave 101 here.
Yeah, I'm going to go set up for 13 past midnight. This is I think night 452 that we've done in a row of the Ghost Stories at Midnight. 252 nights in a row that went live.
Where do you find those?
There's a company called LibriVox, and what they do, they find stories that have gone into the public domain from around the turn of the last century, from the 1800s and early 1900s. They get volunteer narrators, record them, and then they release the recordings into the public domain. So it's a great thing. I probably need to volunteer over there just to show my support. But they have some really good narrators, and they dig out some really good ghost stories. That's fictional stuff for the most part. There's some nonfiction in there, but it's mostly fiction. But it's stories that would otherwise be lost. It's authors that you never heard of and probably will never hear of again. Now, there's some famous authors on there. Occasionally there'll be an Ambrose Bierce or H.P. Lovecraft or Poe, something like that you do know of. But found a lot of good authors from that time period, including my great-great-uncle Frank Stockton. He was a contemporary of Mark Twain and popular fiction author around that time. We've had some of his stories on before. So
beautiful.
You ever seen The Lady and the Tiger? Or The Lady or the Tiger?
I've heard about it.
It's that was one of his short stories. They actually made it into a short film. It's here on YouTube. I remember watching it when I was in high school in English class. But check out The Lady or the Tiger, Frank Stockton. The cool one is made, I think, by the BBC in the 70s. Got this classic Moog synthesizer track that's just totally funky.
Right on. Buddy, I got to run here. Much love to you. I will give you a call tomorrow so we can start planning something, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, brother.
Good night, everybody. Thanks. Much love.
Take care. Steve Stockton, everybody. one of the classiest people in the field. Definitely a good friend of this show, and we absolutely love him around here. And anytime he's here, it makes life very, very good. By the way, I know a lot of you will be interested in this. I did get a message from Swamp Dweller, who wants to come on in November and December again. He's got a lot of holiday weird stories that he wants to share with all of us, and he's getting rave reviews from his audience and our audience, so we're going to get him back in here as well. So that's going to be really cool over the next couple of months as well. So I'm pretty stoked about this. Oh, yeah. Very stoked about this. And, well, the live streams are recorded for Steve. So he just has to monitor it. He could go doze off and probably sleeps a lot during the day. Excuse me. Tomorrow night on the show, the crypto guru is back. Ronald L. Murphy Jr. We're going to have some fun with Guru, have some guru time. And thank you so much to Excalibur, Simon ×2, Tessa, Smithy, Sally, Mark, and Ed for the amazing super chats. Thank you to all our new subscribers out there. We're encroaching on 14,000. We've got about just under 400 to go. Here we go. Rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives. Go to spacedoutradio.com, and on YouTube, go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, once again, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It is time, once again, where I give my rumbling and grumbling opinions on the Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
All right, is ufology on its final breaths? Is it on life support? Now, to many out there who will look at the way ufology has changed over the last 4 years, it is starting to become a little obvious, at least to me, that
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
With Sunmade, Whole Fruit's natural sweetness opens a world of imaginative snacks. Take a sweet or sour adventure with Fruity Raisin Snacks. Chill on creamy, delicious yogurt-covered raisins. And for ultimate yumminess, try s'mores granola bites. Because with Sunmade snacks, goodness really is delicious. Get a taste at sunmade.com/imagine that.
we may be seeing a major change in what we know about ufology. For years, decades, we have seen researchers from Grant Cameron to the late Stanton Friedman, Jim Mars, Linda Moulton Howe, and some of the major players in this field, John Mack and others, go around every part of this topic. From UFOs in the sky to what is the government covering up? What happened at Roswell? What happened at Kecksburg? Do we have crash retrievals? And Are the aliens really taking people like Betty and Barney Hill, like Travis Walton? Can we believe those stories? And as much as those topics today are still very hot button topics and much debated and scrutinized, the majority of ufology, especially since the advent of the internet and social media sites from YouTube to Facebook, Instagram, have really taken over the field. We see videos of lights in the sky and people who are just everyday people posting these videos and pictures, wondering what things are that are lighting up that looks a little unfamiliar. Sure, it could be the Starlink satellites. It could be other satellites, because a lot of people don't know how to track those. It could be the International Space Station. It could be rockets flying by from NASA to Russia's Soyuz program to everything from SpaceX to Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin. We really don't know. But what we do know is that there are anomalies that are going on in the sky. If you look at ufology today, though, over the last 4 years, we have seen a major shift. We have seen experiencers pushed to the side, cast away as those who are just telling anecdotal stories that no, we cannot prove or disprove aliens are here. Experiencers have gone through the realms of being crazy, having mental illness, going through the gamut of everything from imagination to 15 minutes of fame. Go away, experiencers. We don't need you right now. We also see the fact of people who are filming UFOs, dots in the sky that are making strange 90-degree turns or zigzags or circles in the sky, or 1 minute they are there and the next minute they are gone. What does this all mean? Well, ufology has changed. We can honestly admit that. And we can thank the recent news, when I say recent, the last few years of this entire change in the phenomena. We can thank Lou Elizondo. We can thank George Knapp. We can thank people like Jeremy Corbell. We can thank Tim McMillan. We can thank all the YouTube channels. We can thank John Greenwald. We can thank Third Phase of Moon and others who have prominently trying to figure out the behind-the-scenes stories, notes, reality of this phenomena. The big game here is the government, especially the United States government. No longer do we see videos, at least being of importance. Sure, I like to look at UFO videos. I like to be shocked. I like to be awed. That's why I go to channels like Third Phase to check them on out. See what they got that's new. Or somebody like Rob Freeman, who has posted some incredible videos of UFOs in the sky, unexplained aerial phenomena. Yet, when it comes to the government side, if you go on Twitter, if you go on the news, both mainstream and alternative, this is where the story has become. And this is why I believe ufology, as we know it, is on life support. Because no longer is this a game of being something alternative, whether we're an experiencer or we're just someone of interest. No longer do we see the stories of regular people like you and me having an encounter or grabbing a photograph or video being of a level of importance. CGI has ruined that. Fake videos on YouTube and other channels have ruined that because everybody's looking for the clickbait these days. But I'm serious when I say this. If you look at the majority of the new researchers and even a lot of the old guard who have shifted their tune, everything revolves around the Pentagon and Washington, D.C. We need to know about ATIP. We need to know about OSAP. We need to know about Brandon Fugel's Skinwalker Ranch. We want to know what Hal Puthoff is doing. We want to know about Jim Semivan. We want to know about Robert Bigelow and whether or not he is still in the game. We think we know about Luis Elizondo. We think we know what Marco Rubio and Mark Warner on the Senate Intelligence Committee know about this. We want to know if the president, Joe Biden, has been read in. We can speculate that he has. In fact, we know he has. But he still refutes talking about the subject. Same thing here in Canada with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. That's where the story has taken us. We all want to put the pressure on the government for that dirty word of disclosure. But what happens if disclosure happens? Never mind the narrative that's being played out. What happens if disclosure happens? How is this going to change the entire field of ufology? We know it's going to, but is it going to be for the good or the bad? There are a lot of very smart people, and some very dumb people as well, who are going to lose a lot of money. We're all going to be affected because the story is over. We may not get everything that we want, but we may get a president of the United States standing at the podium at the White House saying, "My fellow Americans, we have made contact." Then what? Then it's a whole new ball game, because no longer will Joe and Jill Sixpack's video of some strange triangle in the skies mean anything. No longer will anybody who is filming UFOs mean anything. No longer will a lot of researchers mean anything. Authors, people who are having encounters. The experiencers, though, may be the only ones who benefit from this, because we find out we're not alone, and we find out that they, whoever they are, have been here. Now we're going to turn to the experiencers as the most important people regarding this subject outside of the government. But this is going to affect a lot of conferences, because no longer is there going to be speculation. We are going to know. What we're going to know is an entirely different phenomena. I do not see things coming to light on topics like Roswell or the Phoenix Lights. Topics that we want to know. What happened at Shag Harbor? What happened over Washington State? Why is Mount Shasta so active? Who were flying the craft over North Dakota over the nuclear missile silos? What was that mile-long craft up in Alaska that was intercepted by the Japan Airlines flight back in 1986? We don't know. This is where it is dangerous for the narrative that will come into play. But that's for another time. Right now, my focus is, how will this change ufology? It will definitely change what we do on this show, because we are going to have to figure out how and what to cover. Because all of a sudden, all of these researchers who've been doing this for years have spent thousands of dollars on camera equipment and night vision goggles are no longer going to be relevant to the subject. Now, a lot of people will say, "Dave, you're being a little bit harsh on this." That there will always be time on YouTube and other channels for people to view videos of weird anomalous lights or craft in the sky. But when the government comes out and they've decided to play the game of UFOs officially in the public, because right now it's 50-50. Actually, it's probably still about 20-80 from what they know to what we know. We don't know what they know. We do not know what they are holding on to. Do they have bodies? Do they have crash retrievals and more than one or 10? It is flummoxing to think that this subject is going to push a lot of big names out of it because there's not going to be anything more to cover. The sources, if you watch them, are gluing together over the last 4 years. They're only talking to certain people. They will only be interviewed by certain people. They'll only release videos to certain outlets. Gone are the days of somebody releasing his story on a YouTube channel or a video. Maybe the bigger channels like Third Phase, but you're not going to see someone like Luis Elizondo bring out another video and put it on an internet channel. You're not. You're going to see that go to Fox, CNN, the New York Times, as we've seen previous. So moving forward, how do you think ufology is going to change? It's going to shift, but is it for the good or is it for the not so good? Because right now I can't tell. I really don't know how this is going to affect what we do on a daily and nightly basis. What I do know is that this UFO background is ever changing. Its ebbs and flows are getting bigger and bigger. And soon we may be hit with a tidal wave of information that we are not ready to handle. But in the meantime, there's a lot of people who've put a lot of good money, but more importantly, a lot of good time into figuring out the phenomena. And they will be skunked from ever knowing whether their research is true or not. It's a dangerous time in ufology, and watching it change, I don't think the UFO crowd right now is ready for it. I can tell you right now, I'm not ready for it. I don't even know now if I really want disclosure, because this means an end to a lot of great stories, a lot of great researchers, and a lot of great radio. That is my Dave 101 for this week. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next week on another subject. Let's get to the news. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR News Wire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, strange, and anomalous. Shirky Poo's got us set up because apparently there have been some fast radio bursts seen around a huge cosmic mystery, and now scientists have detected an unprecedented number of signals from one source in just 47 days. Of all the mind-bending phenomena in the cosmos, few are more tantalizing than fast radio bursts. Since the first detection in 2007, these mysterious radio signals emanating from the void have puzzled scientists searching for their source, because they don't want to admit it's aliens. Some of them even repeat and demonstrate unexplained patterns of activity. Now a new look at the first repeater ever discovered, FRB 121-102, first observed in 2012, has revealed some amazing insights. An international team of scientists recorded an incredible 1,652 independent radio bursts from the mysterious source in just 47 days, according to a study. The findings represents the highest activity ever recorded from an FRB, with 122 radio bursts coming in the span of 1 hour in one instance. The scale of the discovery is remarkable. The total number of previously reported FRBs from this source was a mere 349. This is the largest sample of bursts from one FRB source collected so far, said Dr. Bin Zhang, a professor of physics and astronomy at UNLV and the co-author of the study. The observations made using the 500-meter Aperture Spherical Telescope, or otherwise known as FAST, in China between August 29th and October 29th, 2019, have allowed scientists to characterize the radio burst coming from FRB 121-102 like never before. What they discovered complicates the search for a source, even as it narrows down the field of possibilities. The vast number of detections allowed the researchers to thoroughly research for any sign of periodicity or quasi-periodicity, meaning a pattern in the repeating signals that might indicate a single spinning source, such as a pulsar, or maybe nothing. Why don't they just say it's aliens? It's so much fun. So much fun. It's aliens. The 90-year-old William Shatner endured a 10-minute rocket-powered ride into the edge of space, which put his body through crushing G-forces that his fellow passengers described as face-bending, only to step out of the vehicle and immediately begin waxing poetic about the experience and dodging a champagne shower. In that moment, at least one thing became certain. Yes, a non-generian can be an astronaut. Shatner became the oldest person ever to travel to space when his vessel, a suborbital space tourism rocket built by Blue Origin, the company that founded by Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos, brushed the boundary of Earth's atmosphere and vaulted him into weightlessness. And Shatner's oldest in space record bested the one set just a few months earlier by Wally Funk, who was previously denied the opportunity to fly by NASA in the 1960s before she joined Bezos on his own Blue Origin flight at the age of 82. But while Shatner described the payoff of floating around Earth as profound, getting there isn't always most comfortable. When a stone hits a lake, it stops and then sinks, says Chris Bojushun. And he says, so we literally hit the atmosphere and stopped. It was about 5 Gs. I've never experienced that. I was trying to smile, but my jaw was pushed back in my head. Private space companies have pledged for years to open up spaceflight to more people, but Americans are used to imagining astronauts as people in prime physical condition, siphoned out of competitive selection processes like overseen by NASA. So is it really safe for anyone, even a 90-year-old, to go into space? Well, according to Shatner, it is, and it's something that he never wants to forget. Finally tonight, New Jersey is a state that's pretty familiar with paranormal and weird occurrences. They have even had their own mysterious, legendary Jersey Devil. However, something happened this week in the Garden State that brought strange happenings to up another notch. There was a bizarre UFO sighting caught on tape. Video of the incident shows eerie lights over the city of Patterson moving as a large group. No, this was not anything to do with Skynet. Starlink. Why do I want to call Starlink Skynet? Anyways, this made the media. Flying white circles had changed into different shapes. And resident Louis Stevens says, you see it on YouTube. It's always somewhere out in the Nevada desert somewhere. The shock of it is more like this. Is really real, man. I mean, we are really looking at what we think we are looking at? Yep, you did. In other words, Louis, you got aliens. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What's your favorite Halloween tradition? Deb. Mine used to be a tradition, but it's now illegal. We used to go to Grandma's house where she was making fresh, warm donuts to hand out. Can't do that anymore. Paul, fundraising for historic locations. Jessica, pumpkins, decorating witchy stuff, of course. I just like the whole magic in the air. Connor, the witch's ball and crybaby bridge. Anne, dressing as a sexy nurse that's newly unemployed. Nora, we have what we call a shite night, where we pick a B or C rated horror flick. It's got to be one that they didn't make it into a cheesy, but ultimately tried to make it into a good film, but failed. Thank you to everybody in the Thought of the Day. Thank you to Steve Stockton and Shirky Poo as we wrap up tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in, at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.
This is Robert Langdon. I teach symbology. The suspect called him.
From the author of the Da Vinci Code.
He wants me to locate an ancient portal.
We have to finish this, or my dad is dead.
Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol. Streaming now with new episodes every Thursday. Only on Peacock.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now